the 30th. Mr. Liebman, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, sir?
That is my fell out of this.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. I meant to ask you ahead of time and I forgot.
You tried to protect your chair, Jackie.
I know, it's
Go ahead.
It's a wanted commodity.
Go ahead. Lay into it like
it was
you
either
do
that
everybody
or
else.
chickens didn't get food or water.
Uh-oh. Good morning, ma'am. Gentlemen, any amendments to the agenda this morning?
I don't think you called roll, did you?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I did not. Madam Secretary, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Flower,
Present.
Commissioner Kanda,
Here.
Commissioner Prince, Attorney Clint Smith,
Present.
and Clerk to the Board Kelly Campbell present.
Thank you, ma'am. Now, gentlemen, any amendments to the agenda?
I did not.
Okay,
We're having
Commissioner
an executive
Kanda.
session, right?
Yes,
Yeah, I got it.
executive session is on the agenda for an IT security measure. And Commissioner Kanda, you would like to also,
You know, I want to add a personnel issue. So.
okay,
Yeah, I'm in the commissioner's meeting, so by the way.
make note of that.
To the executive.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we will add
Yeah, I would be out there.
Commissioner Prince, you okay with that? It's a personnel issue under executive session. Thank you. Okay. And then approval of the minutes for March 6th. Gentlemen, you okay with doing all three together? Have you had an opportunity to review them?
I'm fine with all
Okay.
three of them.
So March 6th, March 7th, and March 21st. Chair would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Seconded?
Thank you, gentlemen. It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of March 6, March 7, March 21. Discussion, questions, comments?
I'll just make a comment I make almost every month or every time we get them. Nice job, thank you, Ms. Kelly.
Yeah, very good. Anything else, gentlemen? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I just say, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I will speak up, I apologize, I know I have an issue.
No. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Those minutes from March 6, 7, and 21 stand approved as presented. Thank you again, Kelly, for that. I did not hear you, sir. I'm sorry.
And you're close.
I know.
It's my issue, I know that, I'll work on it.
Introductions from the audience. Chelsea, we'll start with you.
Hi, I'm Chelsea Metter. I'm the project manager at the Upper Arkansas Water Conservancy District.
Nice to have you here.
Jackie Bubis for the Sentinel.
Bob Cinderhoff.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
David Falk.
David, nice to have you here.
Autumn Deaver, Housing Director for the Upper Arkansas Area Council of Governments.
Mike Liebman, Affordable Housing Committee.
Good shot, Fire Chief.
Thank you, sir.
Sean Marley, Sheriff.
Thank you. All right, welcome and good morning. We're glad to have you here. We appreciate your interest and concern and taking time out of your day to be here. Autumn, thank you for driving up from Canyon, and Chelsea from Salida, thank you for being here. Appreciate that. Commissioner items. Commissioner Kanda.
Go on a little bit. The BLM we dealt with, they came up onto the towers last week and did an inventory. They accounted for about 99% of all the equipment that's up there. And they know what they're going to do with it all. Just a couple things that were, you know, some ham radio operator equipment that's still there. We need to figure out a few things that are there. And they're coming back, they're bringing down their executives to have another discussion, and at that point we did bring up the fact that we are looking at maybe swapping some ground with them. The county might look into buying that piece of ground, taking on the towers as customers, and we'll talk about that later when we get them down here.
Okay.
They come to
And that's strictly dealing with BLM.
just BLM.
Okay.
The landfill, working with Rusty still with the future. We're going to meet, set up a meeting with the engineer that works the permitting process. We'll discuss what the options are there, and I'll bring that back to you all. Now, I reported last time we got time. It's not the sky isn't falling, but we need to get on it and get busy on what we're going to be moving on next. We had that Action 22 meeting. All three of us were at. That was great on the broadband issues. If you don't know what Action 22 is, it's 22 counties in the southeastern, south mid part of the state here, and it was very informative. I thought learned a lot. There's other meetings that will be scheduled, like the summit that's coming up at Vail in June, and I want to make sure. I think most of us will be going to that. Got to figure out with Brenda how we get registered, make that happen. I talked with Mr. Fickle on the golf course. I see Bob's here, not because of the golf course. You never know. Bob is in it everywhere. Somebody get rid of that. Anyway, he's got potential investors in that. I don't think we're going to have to worry about sponsoring it other than maybe a name. So that's good news. He's got some activity where there's interest in purchasing that and making it be a profit organization, according to Jerry. So we'll back off of that for now. And I think for now we had a good judicial, I guess we're going to call it Justice Center meeting for the future. We're looking beyond just the fix-up of current space, and Sheriff Byerly's doing a great job of ramrodding the committee, and now we're breaking into little subcommittees to work making things happen. We don't want to just come together every meeting and discuss the same thing and wonder what we're going to call it or what other issues there might be. So I like the progress there, Shannon. It's coming around. I think we're going to make some work. So we're looking at how to get the right land, do the right things with this building and other county buildings. So looking forward to the next meeting, which is going to be next month. And that kind of brings us up to speed, I think.
Okay. All right, good. Commissioner Prince?
I'd like to announce that I have a new pen. It's important.
Yes, it is.
For several weeks, we've been trying to find the squeak in one of our chairs. What it was, as a nervous habit, I opened and closed my pen. Being deaf, I never heard it. Everybody else did. I have a new pen, and if it drove me crazy, I apologize.
Isn't that amazing?
I have no idea.
You might be rural if your biggest concern is making noise.
Just discovering what the squeak was.
I had no idea.
Huge.
No idea.
Funny.
Okay. Well, I've been very busy between the last meeting and this one. Of course, I went with both of you to the Action 22 committee meeting, and our facilities development committee that we met yesterday. I agree that that's moving along well. If somebody wins the lottery, 7 to 10 million will solve our issue. So stay tuned. I attended the early development, childhood development committee, tourism, spent quite a bit of time with them. Obviously, we all had the salary committee. I had a very interesting conversation with Westcliff. Westcliff has some lots that are just off Hermit Road that we're discussing potentially donating, the town of Westcliff donating to affordable housing. Very preliminary discussions were that first we need to define what an affordable housing is. And just so people know, affordable housing is not Section 8 of government assisted housing. It's, and I'm going to make up a number, it's say a house that can be sold for $200,000 or less, or an apartment that can be rented for $600 or less a month. And the purpose of it is to help attract the kind of workers that we need who can afford to live here. like deputy sheriffs, teachers, those type of folks. So the town has an interest in potentially donating some of that land to affordable housing. We have a gentleman in town who has indicated that he would certainly be interested. Of course, as that went on, we would put it out to bid and meet all the requirements. So that was very encouraging for a very baby first step. So we, Commissioner Flower and I had a phone conference on affordable housing with the Upper Arkansas Area Council of Governments, and Ms. Deaver's here to help us with our angsts about spending a considerable amount of money for a new study when we paid a significant amount of money a few years back for a study and did nothing with it, so we're concerned about wasting taxpayer money. And other than that, just been doing what I do.
Okay, which is
Stuff.
Wreaking havoc.
Go ahead.
One thing I forgot to mention, I've been working with Gary Hyde and the Road and Bridge guys as well. And I brought up the last meeting, we had unsafe axles on all the water trucks, rear and front axles, which causes us either haul half a load or buy new trucks. And we decided we're going to swap the purchase of semi and trailer, which we had in the budget already, maintenance, and are going to swap it for the truck buy. Good news is, because of the time of the year and trucks that are available, Gary's on to a pretty good deal with three. We're going to buy 3 trucks, or lease them, I should say. And they'll be set up. They got the axles rated at the high loads that are necessary for water. So that's good news. And the other thing I wanted to thank our bosses out there, because I get calls a lot about the road conditions. And that's good. I don't want you to hesitate to call, because there are unsafe conditions that happen, like washboards on curves, because of the lack of snow in this case, in some cases, and then some of it's because of too much moisture. So keep your eagle eyes out. And we do listen to our bosses. You are our bosses, so please keep that up, and it helps us prioritize where we put the crews. So thanks.
Okay, good. I'd just give you a quick rundown on my calendar up to date since our meeting in Wetmore. The afternoon of our Wetmore meeting, I met with the Sangre de Cristo Electric Board of Directors, discussed the Vertimont Tower with them. They informed me that we have had an electric meter on that tower all along. Sangre de Cristo, up until January, has been donating that power, and as a result of a law that came into effect, they can no longer donate power to any of their customers. So they had about 8 customers that they had to start billing. One, of course, was us. So I said that, indicated to them that we were a little taken aback by all of a sudden getting an electric bill in the mail without having any prior knowledge about that, and their front office informed me at that meeting that they did send a letter to the county as well as a phone call to the county. And so I said that as far as I could determine, we were not aware of either one of those things, and they said they would follow up and send me a copy of that letter and provide me the name.
What's the power?
That's the power, obviously, for that tower up on Vertimont. So roughly, I think it's going to average a couple $100 a month. And we are in discussion with other entities in the county to cost share that. But as far as Sangre de Cristo is concerned, we were provided prior notice that that was going to be a change. So I told them I appreciated their information on that. I also attended a workshop in Pueblo called Before the Fire. Shannon Byerly and Chris Barr and myself went down together, and then Cindy was there, and Meredith. We had pretty good contingency there. They actually said, Custer County's pretty well represented at this meeting, so. Seemed like there was somebody else. I'm looking to you guys to. Kit was there. That's right. I sat right next to him for crying out loud. So anyway, pretty good workshop. Very informative. I as well attended that Action 22 broadband workshop in Pueblo. Kelly and I attended a tourism workshop this week down at the Library Community Center, dealing with the lodging tax and how that's being implemented and where that money's going, and so that was informative as well. And we had a salary committee meeting here in the commissioner's room with the department heads this week.
That's right.
And then last evening I attended a community wildfire prevention plan meeting at the firehouse. I had to leave. I thought we were kind of winding down there, but had a phone call and I had to take it. But some progress being made on it was a draft review of that prevention plan, so that's moving ahead. So. And then this afternoon we have a personnel policy workshop with employees, department heads here at the county. So that's, I think, the extent of my items that I wanted to bring before the board. Anything else, gentlemen?
Good.
Attorney items, Counselor.
Just a few things briefly. We have some resolutions that are on the agenda. One concerning the Weed Advisory Board, a proposed resolution 18-05 is we'll be talking about. I noticed a typo. I was just looking at it, so we'll talk about that when we get there. I prepared another proposed resolution 18-06 to change the name of the airport board and formally delineate what its duties are, what the status is of that board. I had done a resolution 18-01. I prepared a proposed amendment of that which would allow airport board personnel and other individuals authorized by the Wet Mountain Fire Protection District to actually move that fire truck in and out of the building there for for special events in case of emergency. And I had to make my weekly command appearance in front of Jackie Hobby to answer questions for her. While I was there, Kit was there, and we talked informally about the issue with the fire ban, and a lot of the ranchers and other people who wanted, well, ranchers are exempt anyway, it's agricultural burning, but other people who wanted to burn slash piles take advantage of the snow we've gotten. And so I put it on as a proposed amendment of that and asked that Kit and Shannon be here to talk about it and see if there's a need for that or not. Let's see. Oh, I met with JD. He had a legal question about a resurvey that changed a lot line and some legal questions about that. JD and Charlie French and I spent about a half an hour going over that and discussing what should be done on it. I think we got that resolved. And Shannon had asked me to take a look at a proposed medical director agreement for a doctor, emergency specialist out of Colorado Springs who's willing to provide consulting services essentially to search and rescue and to the Sheriff's Department. I took a look at that proposed agreement, made some suggestions. Jerry Pickerel from Search and Rescue is handling it on behalf of SAR, and so I had some input on that. And I believe that's everything I've done since our last meeting.
Okay. All right, so thank you. Appreciate your work. Administrative Assistant, Ms. Gady.
Nothing at this time.
Okay, thank you. Move on to old business. A couple of announcements for our audience. Number one, I want to let you know, if you don't already know this, that we are live streaming this meeting. Our camera sits right up there on the wall, so we are audio and video live streaming our meeting as we have been for several weeks. And secondly, under old and new business, any items that the board will vote on, we will allow public comment for each one of those items prior to that vote. I will again ask my cohorts this morning to help me remember to do that. Sometimes I get carried away of calling for a vote and forget about public comment, but I will try to conduct myself accordingly. So if you have the desire, you will be allowed an opportunity to comment. We ask that your comments be fairly brief and relative to the item that we're voting on only. There will be an opportunity at the end of the meeting for public comment in general. So with that, we'll move into old business, resolution 18-04. Counselor, the floor is yours if you would like to start since you wrote the resolution.
Well, and that resolution was just passed last week to impose a fire ban for a period of 30 days. I happened to run into Kit when I was talking to Jackie Hobby, and he was talking about and I understand you've been contacted as well by people who have wanted to take advantage of the wet conditions.
We all have.
And so I just prepared some language for discussion. I didn't talk to Shannon about it, so I wasn't sure what Shannon's position was, but I'd really rather defer to them and see what their position is. It's there now to allow people that have already had a permit and we're waiting for the conditions to be allowed to go ahead and burn despite the fire ban. So,
did you provide a copy of this amended resolution to Kit and Shannon both?
I think they both got copies.
Have you guys seen that?
Have you amended it since we?
No, I didn't.
Sent it yesterday?
I just put that language in an extra paragraph. Well, actually, two, I think. Yes. There's two different things I did.
Brenda's doing exactly what I was going to ask her to do. Just let him look at that. I read through those proposed changes, or at least changes that we may consider this morning. As you indicated, we did get some feedback from citizens in response to the fact that we initiated a burn ban, stage 2 fire ban, at our last meeting, and then 4 or 5 days later had a snow event, which we knew that there was that the snowstorm was predicted when we put that stage 2 restriction in place. So I would defer to these two gentlemen in the back for any comments. Mr. Shy.
How do we get behind the camera?
Stand by the door there.
That's great. Appreciate that.
I don't know, we both talked about this independently and then together a little bit too. The burden would go on Shannon to make a decision about whether it's a reasonable thing to do or not. We've kind of determined that it's a manpower issue. You know, the morning of one of those heavy snows is not just an issue of whether they can open burn or not. That's the same morning that everybody slides off the road. This particular snowstorm, we had 3 people off the road and a suspicious structure fire. So we had 3 different fire sources committed to that structure fire, which took us off the road. His people were committed to the highway. It's really difficult to get around and make sure that folks are doing the right thing on their open burns. It's an ongoing problem, and it's going to continue to get worse because we're telling people they need to mitigate, and then we're not providing them any process for getting rid of what they gather up in mitigation. Len Langford has got a process out there, but it's expensive for people to go and haul the slash off-site. The county used to take slash at the landfill. The problem was that we were under state permit problems with having to burn that on the landfill, and we couldn't get our permits, in line to do that. Forest Service has 5,000 piles out there right now that they'd like to burn. They can't burn them because there isn't enough decent weather for it. We're just in a tight spot right now. If Shannon is willing to take on that burden of doing it a case-by-case basis, I would back him up on that, but it's going to be a real manpower strain and a lot of heat. People are going to take a lot of heat. If you let one person burn because they have a permit, everybody's going to see that and say, well, it snowed, we can all burn. He's got 180 open permits. 189 open permits. What if they all do it the same snow day? We are really, so We need to plan this, but we have to have a place for the slash.
Yeah.
We really have to give people an alternative.
Does our policies call for these open permits to be inspected prior to them burning those piles or not?
No, so they have to, when they fill out their burn permit request, they have to provide information about the piles that they're burning, you know, the size of the material they're burning, what material it is, location, those types of information. But no, we don't go out and physically inspect everyone. There's no way we could.
Right. Would be nice if we could do that, probably.
It would. We used to,
again, manpower.
we did that for a while in the fire department, and it was pretty stressing to get people out there to do it. They have to have a water source. They need to attend the thing throughout the entire event, and a lot of
It has
times
to
they
be
think
out
it's out and
there
it's
cold before dark.
not. Absolutely.
It has to be cold. I would venture to say that happens
Never.
15% of the time. 15%.
And as we spoke last night at that CWPP meeting, if I as a landowner burn my slash and it gets away from me, then I become liable for any damages that may occur downwind. And
Most folks don't
Thank
understand
you.
the
Yeah.
true cost of what
Yeah,
fire suppression
exactly.
is.
Yeah.
Fremont County just recently, 2 months ago now, had that 37-acre fire. Cost them,
Right.
the county, close to $200,000 to suppress that with no loss of any structures, none. So, folks don't comprehend, because look, I don't think we can underestimate the amount of slash and the amount of fuel that's in the county, but whether it was because it's been mitigated or the fact that trees have blown down and fallen down and they're laying there. And that fuel remains, and all it's doing is getting drier. I mean, I know we looked out 2 days ago and it was snowing and it was moist, but listen, the amount of moisture that we got basically had zero impact on fuels.
Right.
Zero.
Or
And
moisture content.
so the
of-
relative humidity levels have not increased a lot, and contrary to what some believe, we just went to the meeting last week, we were all there. What did the National Weather Service say? What did the Forest Service say?
Right.
What did BLM say? They're all saying, listen, you better be ready to handle fire this year because the levels are as bad as we've ever seen, on record, of course. I mean,
Yeah,
that doesn't
the fuel
mean...
moistures are at 30% of what they were in 2002. That's our worst year in 30 years, and then we're at 30% of that right now. It's a tinderbox out there.
It is. We're at a point where a catastrophe could easily occur. Just in the last week, we had the fire on the BLM property out just northeast of Bull Domingo, and they're off of Dead Mule, burned 1.5 acres, 2 acres, and the BLM folks said, thank goodness the wind didn't get into that fire, and the wind that was there was blowing it against the creek, and then it crept up through a bunch of rocky area, and it didn't get into those junipers, because if it had it, we'd probably be still fighting that fire. Then we had the Bishop Castle fire. So Bishop Castle, I would say, is probably one of the areas that got as much snow as anywhere in our county, in that area. When that fire burned, with the snow on the ground, that fire still burnt 20 yards up the slope and was trying to get into the trees. And the trees, the aspen, no, I'm not talking about the aspen that have no leaves, none of that, you could see where they're scorched and browned. It wouldn't have taken much more. If that fire, if that snow hadn't have been there, I wouldn't be at this meeting right now. We would be dealing with a big, big fire. I think we need to look at the ordinance in general. 15.2. Back when we did it, we revised it from the old ordinance, and I think we made some good improvements from the ordinance that was before. Kit was on the board at the time. We had a lot of discussions, and then even it was just a few months after that we saw, maybe we could tweak it and we could make a few changes. But I think, there's been some push that says, well, look, we have all kinds of different climate change. Different zones within the county, okay? I don't disagree with that. But so now, okay, so where do those lines draw? So now you're saying if you live on the north side of a road, well, you're in zone A, and if you live on the south side of the same exact road, you're in zone B. Well, are conditions different if you live right across the road from each other? They're exactly the same. I think there's a reason, and I don't know all the specifics on it, because I'm not an attorney, and I'm privy to the liability, but you start looking around other counties. Pueblo County, for example, they have just as many different zones and climate issues as we would here. You talk the Mesa of Pueblo, and then you go to San Isabel, right across the county line, very different. They don't have any zone differences. Why is that? The Forest Service, the Forest Service has the forest, lots of different changes. They don't have any zone, they don't differentiate between zones. The BLM doesn't do it. There has to be a reason for that. Now, to tell you that I know why exactly, I could guess. Because when you start doing zones, well, fire doesn't recognize zones. And if you authorize that somebody on day, on March 30th, fire doesn't care whether you live in Zone A or Zone B. If fire starts in Zone B because it's safer than Zone A, it'll burn right into Zone A and doesn't care. It'll burn down everybody's house in Zone B and A. It doesn't care. And so I think when we start talking about that, and I'm not opposed to looking at it in discussions, this is my perspective. I'm not saying it has to be everyone else's. But where I look at is I'm trying to look out for the county in general.
Right.
And I can't placate to one or two people. I have no less than 20 slash piles on my property for mitigation. And my neighbors are like, hey, what are you going to do with that? They were worried at first, and I burned some in the last couple of years. They were worried until they saw that I was responsible. And I'm not just going to light those suckers off at the first time there's a heavy dew load. I would love to burn them. My neighbors would love to see those gone too, but I'm not going to do it irresponsibly. Because we can't, and that's the challenge. And so where do we go in and say, okay, it's okay for one person to burn and not another? And so this resolution just says, okay, look, so we're going to put it on Shannon's plate. The Shannon has to decide who can and can't burn. Well, then that, and I maybe I'm being crass when I say that, the sheriff, which just happens to be me right now, so I take on that responsibility. Well, what happens if I say, okay, Jay, you can burn because it looks like it's safe, and it's not?
Yeah, it's a jurisdictional issue, and you've wrestled with it, and we have for years. The idea that when you put on a burn ban of the commissioners in the county, how consistent are we with surrounding counties? How consistent are we with the Forest Service? Is everybody doing the same thing? Because up here, people don't know the line between the forest and the private in a lot of cases. We can't really define all those things. When you put on a burn ban, it takes a couple of days to wind it up because we have to get it on Facebook, we have to get it on our website, we have to get the word out, we put the signs out on the county entrances. Well, then it takes a couple of days to wind it down. So we get 10 inches of snow and everybody wants to burn that day. We can't wind the whole thing down. And to put the burden on him of choosing certain people who can, we have to have some criteria for that, or he ends up being liable. And the manpower part, how many people were on the Bishop fire the other day, the Bishop Castle fire?
Three. We had just three of my guys.
Yeah, and then we had 3 jurisdictions. We had 4 apparatus and 8 firemen there. That's on one little bitty fire. We're going to have to start making those decisions this year because we're going to have 4 or 5 in a day. We're going to have to decide, well, this one we can commit people to because we have a chance of success here. We're going to commit them to this one because there's houses involved. We're going to have to make those triage decisions, and that scares me to death to have to make those decisions.
Not to even speak about mutual aid if another neighboring county.
Right.
Yeah,
and we've got dead areas where no one has any jurisdiction, and there's no mutual aid because there isn't any entity there. We're worried about that.
If I can make a comment, if I may, please. And Chief Sheriff, I really appreciate what you're saying. I'm not in favor of putting this entire burden on you. I don't feel that's appropriate because of the potential liability that the county could have if in fact you say okay and something gets out of hand and the county could be liable. I'm fine with you coming to us and say, us being the Board of County Commissioners, say, I'd like to do something, and if it's in between our organized meetings, maybe we could have a special meeting to discuss whether to put it on or remove it. So I'm hearing 2 issues. One is, what are we going to do today? Are we in favor of removing it or allowing the permitted burns to go? And B, we really need to look at our policy and revamp that. That's what I think I'm hearing. So, and I'll never put words in your mouth, but it sounds like you're not in favor of removing any bans at this time because the conditions have really not changed. Let me rephrase that. Sheriff, do you have a recommendation on what we should do as the Board of County Commissioners for the fire ban that's currently in place?
So before I do that, let me just answer or address one of the comments you made. So listen, I have no problem with it being placed on me and I say yay or nay. I mean, essentially Kit and I work together and we make a recommendation to you, and at least in my experience so far in the last 3+ years, the commissioners have never balked at because you understand that I'm on the phone every Monday for the fire call. I forward you the information I get from the BLM every week about what the fire conditions are, what the outlooks are, the weather. So I don't have any, I mean, I'm the fire marshal, you know, that's the way the state set it up, so that burden falls to me to a high percentage anyway. So that's not the issue. What I'm saying is as a county, do you want me being the one that says thumbs up or thumbs down to individuals burning? That's my only
Let me clarify
input there, if that makes sense.
Let me clarify that comment. Is that a thumbs up, thumbs down while there is no burning ban, or while there is a burning ban?
No, while there is a ban.
Okay.
While there is a ban.
Okay,
I think when we don't have a ban in place, there's a lot more flexibility within the plan to do that. I think it's fine when we're not in one. The concern becomes when you're in restrictions, because so now there's no plausible deniability. You as a county, you're in a fire, so you acknowledge there is high risk, and now all of a sudden you tell somebody it's okay to burn? Because let's be honest, I would think that I'm pretty knowledgeable about fire now. I mean, I'm certainly not a firefighter, but I know a lot more now than I did before I took office with all this stuff that I go to. Do you think that I should be able to go out and just decide in a burn ban whether I could burn my slash piles or not? Is that real? You see where I'm going with that? I don't know everyone that has burn permits personally, and I don't know what their knowledge is. And then, so now we're going to have to, I mean, I think we just start getting into some struggles there, that if a fire gets away from us and I said yes, and we're in a fire ban and it burns down everybody in here's houses, who do you think's going to pay for those? Their insurance company's going to come after us.
Right. Exactly. I'm hearing loud and clear what you're saying. I think I'm in a total agreement with you, because although you haven't said it, I think what you're alluding to is that if we have a fire ban, we have a fire ban. When we don't have a fire ban, then you follow the law. And I'm certainly not going to speak for my cohorts up here, but I certainly would. I would appreciate that. I don't know why one person's fire mitigation is more important than the next person's.
Right.
The danger is exactly the same whether this person has a permit or this person doesn't. I think if both of you recommend to us we should be in a fire ban, I will never countermand that, because you're the experts and I'm not. And if you feel it's important enough to put a fire ban on, understanding the inconvenience to our citizens, that's the way it goes. And it's not our fault that it's not raining, it's not snowing. You know, and if your slash piles continue to grow because Mother Nature's not cooperative, I'm really sorry.
And I commend people that are mitigating. Well, I mean, we talk about that, and Cindy does. Listen, we want you to mitigate, and we want you to be able to burn those slash piles. That we want that, but at the same time, we have to consider your neighbors and the folks that live downwind from you, if and when something gets away from us. And so, to kind of wrap up, at least from my thoughts on this. So I want everyone to know when we put these fire restrictions in last week, we had been talking about it for at least 2 weeks before that, and I mean the week before that I had kind of said, hey look, we really need to look at this, and we waited another week hoping, because out there was this little inkling that we might get a little moisture here or there, and so until the point where we said, look, Fremont's having fires, and BLM has met the criteria to go into fire restrictions. We think we should do this, knowing that there was a chance we could get moisture, but we all know how the weather works, and forecasts. I wish I got paid to be wrong 50% of the time. So, right? I mean, it's just the way it works. So we didn't take that lightly. Going into fire restrictions is not something that we take lightly, that we just decide, you know, Kit and I get together in the morning and go, boy, it's dry out there, let's do fire restrictions. That's not how it works.
There's some science to it.
Listen, it undermines the fire restrictions when you're standing there telling somebody they can't burn and it's snowing. I get it. But Kit said exactly, it's to spin up a fire restriction and spin one down and then spin it back up and you're bouncing around. Right. Then how do people really even know? Because it's hard to get the word out, even because we have so many people that come from outside the county. We're pretty sure that's what started the BLM fire over there with the Dead Mule fire, campfire that was unattended, left unattended, hot. It's what started that. It's hard to get those words out. So if you looked out the window right now and you didn't know we got snow 3 days ago, does it look any different today than it did a week ago?
Absolutely not.
Now if you start up the hill a little bit, there's a skim of white, and that would stop a fire for
Long.
seconds.
It's the wind, there's always wind driven here, is our household.
I don't think we make a change today. Now, I'm certainly open that we have a workshop or something, we sit down, we talk about how can we improve, maybe we get some public input, and we talk about that. I am certainly not opposed to that. I don't think that the burn ordinance is perfect. I don't know that it ever will be. But for today, I do not recommend that we make big changes.
So, John, based on a fire marshal's recommendations,
No, I'm all right, I'm with that too.
you're on board too.
Well, I recommend that we keep the fire ban on that we have on.
Yeah, I was
I
gonna
want to
say.
see us do the mitigation, and I want us to start, the big nut to crack here is we're asking people to mitigate, and we're not giving them a source of where to haul it to. The other thing is consistency with the surrounding neighbors. And I would like to see us work towards, when we put on a fire ban, our neighbors do the same thing, because it doesn't know where the county boundary's at. I'm the only one who knows where the county boundary's at, and fire will jump right over it.
I think that's excellent comments. I think that's probably a little beyond the scope of what we're going to talk today, other than to say maybe we could put a workshop together in the next week or relatively short period of time where we can get the folks together and decide how can we do exactly what you're saying, because I think what you're saying is it's 100% correct. But I don't think we need a motion to do anything because we're not doing anything, but I would recommend to my fellow cohorts that we make no changes to the fire ban at this time. And I would ask Brenda and you folks to let's get together and find a time where we can sit down and work out a new policy that would be better for everybody, including the surrounding counties. I agree with you completely. The fire has no idea where that line is. You're right on. And I think mitigation has been a major part of our county, and you know, I recognize that there are times when a fire marshal may say there were 3 houses burning, this person cleared, this person did nothing, let's go to the one that we have a chance of saving, and that's the message you make loud and clear, all of you. And I recognize that we got slash piles, but unfortunately Mother Nature's not following us. So I personally feel let's get together, let's work out a new procedure if we need it, but let's do nothing today based on the recommendation of the professionals who are making their recommendation.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, let me say a couple things, because I hear you loud and clear, and I agree. And I think we do need a workshop, we do need a work policy. Let me point out a couple things. Policy is what got us into trouble here in the first place. You look at the range right now, you got needle kill, you got mistletoe, you got blowdown. And we had a policy, and the Forest Service has admitted the same to us in meetings recently, that policies 20, 30 years ago have created a big hazard in our territory, period. And unfortunately that's the case. We also have insurance companies that are betting on the come, and you know, and I do believe that you guys are responsible, and that landowners should care about their own land too, and we do need to mitigate the fires. And you make decisions on the knowledge you have at the best that you can, and you don't know how things are going to go. I hate to call it an act of God, but accidents happen. And the way nature takes care of the problem we got is lightning's going to strike, and we're going to have a fire, and it's going to burn who knows how much of this range and people's houses, no matter how hard you try to mitigate. Because you all have told me personally that you've seen the spark jump over a lot of protected ground, and into the house it goes.
The Royal Gorge, I saw.
Right. Look at what happened there. I couldn't believe my eyes. So you have to do responsible things, and at the time, and it's a bad thing. I agree with you that we ask people to mitigate and have fires, slash piles build up. What are we going to do with it? Who's going to pay for them to be hauled off? I don't care where we're going to take them. Nobody's going to end up doing it. We're going to have big hazards still sitting, right? So we got to do something, and we need to be acting responsibly. And so I don't think I would begrudge you ever if we had 5 snowstorms in a row when it's a fire ban, and we've got policy set up after we've discussed it, and you make a decision, or Tom makes the decision, or I make it, or Kit, or Jay. If you did it with the best knowledge at hand, and an accident still happens, that's why the insurance companies are in business. Too bad, we're going to have to deal with it. But, that's what happened. I had a good friend of mine in the fires up in Denver, lost everything they had. Wedding rings got melted, everything got out, and they got their horse out, and that's all they got. And they rebuilt, came back, and, there it is. But so we have to deal with reality. And I do know, and some of the calls we got, and I know Tom got them, and so did Jay and you, and I saw everybody saying, I'm not stupid, I'm not going to burn my own house down, I got these slash piles, what am I going to do? How is the burn affect, or the ban affect the ranchers' right to burn, right? Doesn't. So we're going to depend on those guys to do the right thing? How are we going to, we still have an issue. So you could cry the sky is falling, and we could never let anybody burn ever, and then eventually lightning's going to strike and it's going to burn. So we've got to be responsible. We've got to come together, and we do need to make policies that are wise and have the ability to move the slash or burn it when we can. And I trust you guys. And so I'm with you. I don't think we need to change anything today, right now. We did get, 3 or 4 days of good moisture. And maybe, if we had a policy where you're out there, you're looking downwind, that's what we're going to invoke eventually. But I wouldn't be afraid to do the right thing, if in our discussion. So anyway, I agree. But we got to, the sky is not falling. We got to deal with it. All right.
Yeah, I've got a couple comments. Obviously, from what has been said, I think folks in the audience know we've taken some heat over imposing a fire restriction in our county, which on the surface blows me away. I would think most people would be in here yelling and screaming because we have not imposed a fire ban in this county. It doesn't take a scientist to realize that we are at a significant risk of torching a good portion of this county down, either wildfire or a natural fire. There's a reason we call it a stage 2 fire restriction for Custer County. And these gentlemen alluded to that. Fire is not going to know one zone from another. An ember storm is not going to know one zone from another. Zones have nothing to do with it, in my opinion. I get it that alpine, subalpine's a little different than down here on this high mountain desert, and it's a little different than Wetmore. I'd have a hard time buying into anything other than that, really, when it comes to climatic conditions, snowfall, fire danger.
Is what it is on the ground.
It doesn't have anything to do with climate zones as far as I'm concerned. Dealing with slash piles and mitigation, I get that to some degree, but it was tough to sit and read these emails and listen to these phone calls when people were just fired up that we imposed a stage 2 ban and now we weren't going to let citizen ABC. That's a community cup of coffee, by the way. We're all going to take a shot out of that before the day's over. So I agree. I don't believe it would be reasonable for us to change anything concerning the stage 2 fire ban that's in place right now. I respect and appreciate you gentlemen's input. If you were standing here telling us something different, I'd be all in with it because, as Jay said, that's what your job is. So,
Mr. Chairman, might I make a
yes, sir,
request?
go ahead. Yep.
We're all going to try and get ready for some discussion about this, and there's lots of different forums to do that. I'd like to get, make it a regional discussion, but I would ask that you would reach out to your fellow commissioners in the surrounding counties and find out how they're handling fire bans.
Okay.
See how they institute them, how they compose them, what, you know, what restrictions and what, triggers they put in them for
Okay.
reducing or increasing the bands. That, we have a consistency in the 1, 2, and 3, but how you do it is a different thing, and I'd like to see how.
Yeah,
other
we know where our
counties are
borders
skipping
are,
this
and if they're doing something really screwy on the other side, we gotta know.
Well, and I shared with you in
Together.
an email that, I have the new
Great.
Pueblo County
Right.
just adopted a couple weeks ago, where now they allow, on red flag days, they allow the sheriff to put the county in a fire restriction without any board up on red flag days, so it can come in and out. So they've allowed that flexibility. I do think there is a lot of room, but I echo what Kit said, if we can work with the other counties, because again, there's gotta be some solid reasons why you don't have climatic zones.
Sure.
Exactly.
But I'm not exactly sure what it is, other
I
than
think
what I
it's
shared
simple,
with you.
Shannon, it's different, no matter where it is.
Right.
It won't matter.
Everybody's
It could be
got-
crisp up here and
Bounds
even
a lot.
drier, it might not be.
Right.
This forest district bounds a lot of counties.
Yeah.
So what the forest does, and almost 40% of our county, has a great bearing on what we do, and us working together on that would be, they drive by that Forest Service sign in Silver Cliff, and it says something different than what we're saying. The public is confused, and you can't expect them to understand what the difference is. So.
Yeah, and I think either Kit, you said it, or Dennis Page with the U.S. Forest Service said it. When they start talking about fire bans at that level, they're talking about from Fort Collins to New Mexico. They're not worried about zones. They're worried about fire, topography, doesn't matter. So I don't mean any undue respect to the people that have voiced their opinions. That's the democratic way, but I think we're doing the correct thing for the safety of not only the citizens and their property, but our county as a whole. So thank you, gentlemen, appreciate that.
There's no overreacting on fire.
I don't believe so, no. A lot of underreacting could happen, but I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Hey, Kit, can you stay for just a second on the other one, amending that IGA for, between the airport and the fire protection?
What issue per meeting?
Okay.
And that came from your old days of sitting up here?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen, appreciate that. The board will take no action on revising the current Stage 2 fire restriction resolution. I believe was 18-04, correct? Correct. Okay. We'll move on. Second resolution we want to consider today is 18-01, an amended resolution concerning the Wet Mountain Fire Protection District's lease of an airport building. Counselor, would you like to take the lead?
And that one was based on a discussion, I think Alan Butler brought it up, that the Wet Mountain Fire Protection District now has a vehicle there, as I understand it. And the original resolution under use of premises said that nobody would be authorized to move that vehicle or to operate it other than Wet Mountain Fire Protection District personnel. But I added this language that says, with the exception that members of the airport board and other persons designated by the airport board who have received special training and permission from the Wet Mountain Fire Protection District and who have been certified in writing by the WMFPD to operate the vehicle may move the vehicle in and out of the OMS building when necessary for special events or in case of an emergency. That was the only change, but it did allow some flexibility there. And if Kit's okay with that language, I would ask the board to consider amending the resolution accordingly.
Let me ask a question, too, because Kit and I talked about that, and Alan brought it up. You also thought it would be good, it helps you maintain the thing, so I think, other than just saying special events and emergencies, it ought to be, as you train them, they can bring it in and out and do things to keep and maintain that vehicle, keep the batteries up, it's like whatever.
Yeah, it's probably a good idea. They can do a walk around.
Right.
To do a mutual training on it, Commissioner, and be able to let everybody do that. We also wanted to include, and I don't know if your language does that, your maintenance gentleman goes out once a week. It'd probably be good if he was able to pull the truck out and take a look at it real quick.
That's what I meant by maintenance.
And he could be included in who have been certified.
Yeah, as long as you authorize him by name, just have a list of the ones.
Yeah, we could do that in our training. We're gonna have
They're
mutual
not a
training out there.
designated person.
Yeah.
And then I believe I have to give you $1 Says it
We
in
got,
there.
we got the check.
That check's been cut and we were sent copies of it.
Fair enough.
Save your money.
You bet. Thank you.
Truck's in there now, did I hear?
I'm okay with that.
You still have your truck down here, though it's not at here.
Right, we are waiting for one more thing on it, and then once we get it on there, it'll be out there, and that extends our coverage quite a bit too.
Right.
Also gives us some protection for the air fleet that comes in. If we have that kind of fire, they like to have a fire truck there, so we will be able to house more of the aircraft that we fight the fire too.
So you're okay with the wording, Kit?
Yeah, I didn't spot it at the end here. Which number is it?
It's C right there
Use
where
of
it-
premises, page 2, second to the last paragraph.
Starts with.
Members of the airport board and other person that
That would cover maintenance and not just special events.
You guys too. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for your input. And then obviously the only other changes would be adding the word second amended lease agreement at the bottom on the signatory line, correct?
Correct. And in the caption up above, it says second
Yes.
amended, and then down below.
Good. I would move that the Board of County Commissioners adopt the amended resolution 18-01, intergovernmental agreement between Custer County and the Wet Mountain Fire Protection District for the lease of certain property.
With the words that Clint's got to modify it with? or-
I say as the amended,
He's already got what we just discussed in there.
yes.
Can I suggest you add second amendment so I know which one
Yeah.
we're voting on?
That's correct. Adopt the second amended resolution 1801. Thank you, sir.
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded to adopt resolution number 1801, second amended intergovernmental agreement between Custer County and the Wet Mountain Fire Protection District for the lease of certain property. Further discussion?
I appreciate everybody's work on this. It's a great deal for everybody.
Public comment?
I just have a question for Kit. Kit, when this first started,
He's gone.
it was, oh, well,
Nope.
fine.
Oh, he's
there.
there, okay, didn't see him.
When this first started, there were some people that were out in, what, Cristo Vista or somewhere out there. No, that's not right. That were training specifically so that they could use that truck. Have they finished training? Do you have a crew for that truck in that area?
Yeah, we have 40 firefighters, 2 from Puerto Verde and 2 from Centennial Ranch, that they're involved in their training. They're still involved in it.
They're completed,
It's a year-long process.
I think one of the airport board members are permanently out there, and they're gonna be on the spot immediately.
Handy too.
Plane.
I had one quick question. The next item on your agenda is, or one down here, ways you're gonna change the name of the airport board, but that's not gonna happen until, that will happen after the name's been changed in this
Gotta
agreement.
amend that.
Is there any problem with that? You know, you've got
I think I
one
may,
happening before the other.
I think I may have already changed that in this
Yeah, you
amended
changed it in the
resolution.
amendment, but you don't change it officially till after you've approved the amendment. Just a question, I don't know whether that's.
Well, you're back giving me a hard time again, aren't you?
I told you, give me 2 issues.
Which, the cart or the horse is?
No, I just wondered if, you know, I mean, I'm sure you can, there's something that reference could be made to it. I just see that the name change doesn't occur till afterwards.
Don't sign it until after the
There
other
you
one's
go.
done.
There you go.
Yeah, I'll take care of that. Thank you, Brenda.
Thank
Thank you, sir.
Date it and
Further
time it
discussion?
accordingly.
Do you need me any more, sir?
Nope, we're good. Thank you, Kit. Appreciate your time. Other public comment? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed nay. Motion carries. Let the record show that resolution 18-01, second amended intergovernmental agreement, was accepted. Okay. Any other old business to come before the board? Hearing none, we'll proceed to new business. Review the vouchers and sign the checks. Gentlemen, have you had an opportunity to review those vouchers that were sent to us electronically?
I did.
Yes.
If not, I have a hard copy here. I had a couple questions. They weren't earth-shattering, but I don't know that it's worth Donna coming over. And I should have asked Shannon when he was here, because he could have answered one of them, but What's the group's pleasure?
I'll move that we approve the vouchers for March 2018 as presented.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the vouchers for March 2018. Further discussion? I would just say, since I brought it up, there was two lines in there. One was for symbol art, was under the sheriff's expenses, and it said that it was for award or merit pin, singular. And I just was going to ask how many of that was involved, so it's not a big deal. And then Blue Flame, I'm assuming, was one of our
And
propane vendors.
I can look at the voucher and let you know too. So.
All right, good. Those are the only questions I had. Public comment. I know that's hard if you don't have this document in front of you to ask an intelligent question about the vouchers, but hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. The vouchers for March 2018 have been approved. I believe we need to sign each group, or initial each group of these. I thought normally they were earmarked where those were, but we'll just have to kind of thumb through, if you don't mind starting with that. Now, by golly, we're up to the Upper Arkansas Water Conservancy District project presentation.
Can I take that
Chelsea
one?
offered to come and share with us some of the projects that the Upper Ark Water District are doing. So with that, we'll turn it over to you. Do you have any questions or comments? Because we'll move around and sit back there.
Okay, or if you just wanted to scooch over a little bit so I could put this up, but I have the slides here as well, if you just want to look at those. It's up to you. And then I have a little video after you.
Yeah, we'll come around.
I'm going to come around?
Yeah.
Okay.
At least I will. Gentlemen, you can do whatever you prefer. Okay.
Are you staying there, Jim?
Sure. I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Of course, everything's shut down.
Oh, good.
Oh, that's what it was. Thank you. But I have to get my computer to go. There we go. Thank you.
Do you want me to turn the light off?
Yeah.
Sure, that might be helpful. I actually have a clicker, so then I can sit there in front of you all. That's all right. Good.
When the tide's out.
So thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to come here and provide you with an overview and an update on some of the projects that we're working on. My name is Chelsea. I'm the project manager at the Upper Arkansas Water Conservancy District. I just got this photo. It was about, I think it was last Friday, and this is Deweese. So, you know, we're talking a lot about snowpack and being really dry, and to me, this really, you know, shows the importance of having storage. You know, storage allows you to capture water in a wet year to have it available in a dry year. So, just wanted to show that. To start off with this slide, this is all of the projects we're currently working on, and so we're very busy right now, but we have a lot that we can share. And I just wanted to put this up there, you know, to show that the Upper District can really be a resource for you here in Custer County. And I will not go through all of these projects today. I'm going to focus on 3 of them. One project in which Custer County is a local matching partner. So the first one I want to talk about is our 2018 Education and Outreach Plan. About a year ago, we decided that we wanted to revamp all of our communications materials and put together an education plan and really have a stronger presence in Custer County and Fremont County. Our office is in Salida, and I think we have a pretty good presence there. People know us there, but we want to get out a little bit more and get more involved in what's going on in these other communities that our district covers. So for those of you who don't know, the Upper Arkansas Water Conservancy District's about 3,000 square miles. We cover Chaffee County, Fremont County, Custer County, a little portion of Saguache, and a little portion of El Paso counties. So last year I went out and I interviewed all of our board members, who Bob is our chairman, interviewed Bill Donnelly, who else from Custer County, met with local nonprofit leaders, San Isabel, Land Protection Trust, some other folks, and then folks in Fremont County as well as Chaffee County. And I just went out and wanted to listen to everyone, find out what are your educational needs. And what I learned from this was that they're very unique depending on where you're at. I also learned that we needed to better explain, I guess, who we are as a water conservancy district, what we do, what our services are. And so we're really working on that. So what we're doing now is we are creating a whole new website, new materials. We really hope this website will be a resource and a tool for anyone in our district boundaries. We're also putting together different programs, so some Water 101 programs, different tours we're going to put on, and other educational opportunities. And then continuing to partner with folks in different areas to help them with their educational needs. So really the purpose and the goals here are to fill the information gap on water use and policy in the Upper Arkansas Basin, and then also to position ourselves as a local resource for water information, and really just to extend that invitation to use us as a resource. We do this water stuff day in, day out, so we want you to know that we're there to answer any questions if you have projects you're looking at. Several of our members sit on the round table. I chair the needs assessment, which is a water supply reserve fund, and so I've been pretty successful at helping other municipalities secure grant funding for projects, so we're here to help. The next study I want to talk about, and this one is the one that Custer County is a local matching partner. This is what we call our water balance studies. So this started back in 2000. We partnered with USGS to do a study of the sustainability of groundwater resources in the Salida Buena Vista area. And in that first study, we looked specifically at groundwater. And it was pretty interesting. We found that in the valley there, we have a pretty resilient system. So they did the study during the 2002 drought, and during that year, the groundwater levels did drop significantly, but by 2003, they were completely recovered. So that's really good news that it does bounce back. After we finished this report, we realized we were only looking at one piece of the equation. So we were just looking at groundwater, and to get an accurate understanding of your water supply, you need to look at surface water and groundwater and the interactions between them. So we partnered again with USGS, then we went out to local partners such as Custer County, Chaffee County, Fremont County, other municipalities, asked if they'd be willing to put in a little bit of matching funds to help us get grant applications to do this next study. And again, we focused on Buena Vista, Salida area, and this time we looked at both surface water, so how much water is actually infiltrating into the alluvium, and then how much water is discharging back into the rivers, and that's really the water balance, so how much water you have in a season. The other thing we started to look at during this was we were finding specific areas that had space available in the aquifer. So from where the ground is to where the water table is, in some areas, there's space available in there. And you really have to have the right soils, and so it becomes kind of specific, but when you find that, it's pretty incredible because we're starting to look at alluvial aquifer storage. So, you know, we believe that storage is very important here in the Upper Basin, and if we could find other ways to store water, like in the alluvium, we're really excited about that, and I'll talk about another project where we're moving forward with doing that. Moving on to phase 2 of this study, we decided we wanted to come over here to your neck of the woods and do the same study in the Wet Mountain Valley. So again, we went out to our local matching partners. I put up the funding here just to show you what we could accomplish when we all come together. Upper District put in about $70,000. We got local match $70,000 through all of those partners. Custer County, thank you, $5,000 over 3 years. With a total match of $138,000, we were able to leverage that and do a project of $667,000. So I like to use this because I think it really sets the example of, you know, integrated water management, coming together, leveraging funds, and working on projects together.
Can we ask questions?
Absolutely.
How does that play with the wet mountains on the eastern side, Wetmore? Because you're saying we got 2,000 well permits, and I see where they're dotted around the valley. But what about the rest of the county?
On the other side,
Where's
The eastern half.
the eastern
Custer.
side of Custer County?
Wetmore.
Wetmore.
in the Wetmore area,
All that is part of the watershed here, and then it still ends up in the Arkansas River.
I know they, and I have to talk to USGS, who's actually on the ground doing this piece of the study. I know they were looking specifically at the Grape Creek and Texas Creek drainages, and that's where their focus was. And I'm not sure exactly why they didn't
We've got
move
kind of a
further.
diverse watershed here. Just curious because it impacts the county.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that
And I
there's,
think the board, or Chelsea, they are gonna be studying that area, but that is a different water drainage.
Right.
So we
okay.
go out,
You
what
do it by
happens,
drainage.
Chelsea may not know, but we go out maybe 10 miles or whatever it is to that certain area where X amount comes this way, then the X amount goes towards Wetmore.
And this is
up in-
Canyon City, but
Yeah.
goes
Yeah,
out
so we're looking
west.
at just the drainage that
This
comes to
portion
this
right
side.
now.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and we take it by drainages. That's how we've done it in the past. So yeah, focused on this specific drainage, I guess
So
is
those
how I should
2,000
ex-
well permits are in the valley, not the county.
Yes, in the valley. So they have analyzed the 2,000 well permits, established 30 monitoring wells, and 32 stream measurement sites. So they're out there now, I believe, you know, taking measurements, and they'll continue to do that over the next, I don't know, probably a year and a half. We're also working with the Colorado Water Institute, a gentleman named Blake Osborne, who is developing a network of soil moisture sensor monitoring. So he has one in Buena Vista, one in Salida, and then I believe 2 in Custer County. And those are site-specific on irrigated lands, but it really helps us get, it's almost like a site-specific water balance. So that information will also be used in this study. The other thing we would like to look at, again, you know, if we come across it, just like we did in the Salida Buena Vista study, these areas of potential, that have potential for alluvial aquifer storage. The next project that I'm going to focus on is our multi-use project. So this project is one we've been working on for several years with a local land and water rights owner, Mr. Paul Moltz, who lives in Johnson's Village, so right outside of Buena Vista. He owns over like 900 acres, 250 of them are irrigated. He also owns Trout Creek Reservoir, and we've been working with him to develop a project that looks at how do you integrate multiple water use components into a single project and provide benefits for multiple uses. So this will be covered in a little video that I'm going to show, but just briefly, this is the land. Let's see if I can use my pointer. This is Trout Creek Reservoir. He's currently working on enlarging that. Right now there is 671 acre-feet in there. These are the irrigated lands. We will be talking about potentially doing some alternative transfer methods. So what we would do is work within his current operations. So every 5 to 7 years, if he's replanting, he grows alfalfa out there. Maybe we would fallow this land, put that water into storage. The next year do this one, put it into storage, and so on. So this is a way to help prevent permanent buy and drain on these agricultural lands while also producing a reliable source of water for municipal use. Also looking at some recreational access along the river. And then this is a very ambitious project. So, you know, these are all ideas that we have, but we realize that we have to kind of break it into its components and focus on each one at a time. So what we're working on right now is that alluvial aquifer storage that I've been talking about. Through those studies that we did with the water balance study, this area kept coming up as having really high potential for alluvial storage. So what we want to do is, here, I'm going to go into the next slide. Here's just a basic example of how we want to do our alluvial storage. What we'll do is we'll divert surface water, fully consumable water, out of the Arkansas River or one of the drainages. We'll place it in a recharge pond. That water then will percolate into the aquifer, and it runs down what we call a historic thalweg, which is basically an underground river. And then eventually, that water will hit the Arkansas River again, out here. So we're not doing any pumping, we're just naturally letting it percolate in, move through the system, and then hit the river. So the storage component is the timing from when we put the water in to when it hits the river. So we've done some preliminary engineering. We did get some funding from the state to develop this project. We have already built a recharge pond right here. And what we found is that the historical thalweg runs this direction, and this area right here is right above Browns Canyon National, like if you're heading into Browns Canyon rafting. The distance is about 11,000 feet, width 13,000 feet. The depth, so that available space in there, is 30 to 60 feet. And when you put all of these together, we think that there's anywhere from 10,000 to 20,000 acre feet of storage. So in the video, we fly over Trout Creek Reservoir, and so just to put this into perspective, Trout Creek Reservoir holds 671 acre feet. And we're thinking that we could store up to 20,000 in this alluvium. We did some return flow timing calculations, and what we found is from this pond, if we put in 100 acre feet of water, it could take, for that last drop of water to make it all the way back here, it could take up to 20 years. But it works on a bell curve. So after about 6 years, 50% of that water is hitting the river here. And then in phase 2 of this project, what we would like to do is develop multiple recharge ponds along that historic thalweg. So then, if this one takes 20 years, this one might take 15 and 10 and 5. So that provides flexibility in the system. Ideally, too, once that water hits the river, we can use it in our augmentation plan. If we have any excess water, we would like to eventually exchange that water back up to this recharge pond and keep filling it up, basically until we could fill that alluvium. And then we almost have a renewable resource because it's constantly hitting the river and we're constantly putting water back in. So we just built the recharge pond. We're putting in piping that will deliver the water to the pond. And then we're putting in piezometers, and we're going to do a lot of monitoring over the next year. So I will let you know what happens with that. The last thing I have here is just some potential projects and partnerships, a few things that I've been working on I thought that you might be interested in. I have been having some conversations with different folks, Dewey Stagg Reservoir and Canal Company, about looking at a feasibility study of enlargement or dredging or something of Dewey's Reservoir. Don't know the details of it yet, but I am working with them to try to secure some grant funding to look at potentially increasing storage there. We've also been working with BLM and Dewey Stagg for several years on an efficiency study there, so looking at the flows below Grave Creek and trying to figure out how we can improve the fishery down there. And really what we're finding is we need more water and timing of the water. And so hopefully looking at this increased storage will then help the flows, which will then help the fishery. A few other things I'm working on is we just finished a PBS documentary through the Arkansas Basin Roundtable, and this explores the economic and social impacts of the Arkansas River as it flows from Leadville to Lamar. And it is going to air on Rocky Mountain PBS, I think in May, but we're taking this film around the basin, and one of the stops we would like to come to is here in West Cliff, and I've reached out to San Isabel to help me, kind of promote that and get that all together. But would love it if, you could attend that event, and I'll get you all of that information. The other thing is San Isabel has worked with us for several years. We just started an education water festival in Salida 2 years ago. So this will be our 3rd year. We're expanding into Buena Vista, and then ideally we've talked about maybe developing a water festival here in West Cliff as well. So wanted to talk or let you know about that, and then just any other events or projects that you're working on, or have questions about, or looking for funding. I just want to let you know that give me a call and be happy to try to help you through that. And any questions or feedback?
Did I hear something? I'm sorry, Jay. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. The alluvial underground storage unit, is the purpose of that, in case of severe drought, you could then pump water out of that? What is the purpose of it?
You could. The purpose is that in a wet year, we could be capturing a lot more water. Like, for example, this year, it's a dry year and our reservoirs are completely full.
Right.
So the idea is to be able to store more water in the upper basin at all costs. So what alluvial storage does is, as we're putting it in there, we're having a constant flow hit that river. So that's a flow that is in addition to what we currently have. So it's more water. And so, for example, right now we have to release out of some of our reservoirs to meet our augmentation demands. But if we could start storing in that alluvium, and we know how much is hitting that river, that's hitting our demand, it's keeping that river whole. We could hold more of that water up here in case of emergencies or back-to-back droughts, or whatever it is. So it's another supply.
When you say hold that water, you mean in some reservoirs?
Yes.
Let
Yes.
that underground alluvium feed your your call downriver.
That ideally,
and hold
yeah.
the water in the reservoir for later use.
Ideally, that's where we would like to get. That's why we want to try to fill it, keep it full, moving it. It's constantly hitting our supply, and then we have backups for, that's the thing is, like this year, it is dry, but what we've done through, managing our water well is our storage is full. I mean, it's pretty incredible. You saw the one of Deweese there spilling over the top. But it's, when you hit back-to-back droughts and you can't refill those reservoirs, what this does is it gives us that constant supply while being able to keep...
You can keep the demand downriver constant.
Yeah.
Even in a dry year. So you've got a wet year, you're taking advantage of the underground.
Absolutely. We're just retiming it, basically. Yeah. Instead of just letting it run through in a wet year and flowing right by us, we're going to capture it. We're going to hold it there for future use, or just
you're really not holding. It's just that's the amount of time it takes.
Exactly. So throughout those years, it'll slowly hit the river.
Right.
And I have a short little film. If I could take 5 more minutes.
And while you're doing that, does the Conservancy District have an educational trailer about water?
A trailer?
Watersheds, yes.
No, so this, I'll show you, we've been working on some, are you talking about like a video?
No,
like a physical
sorry,
trailer?
a physical trailer that you can travel around to different communities and do water education. We had one that came through here at one time. I don't remember who put it on. It could have been Division of Wildlife in those days. Just an amazing educational tool showing silt movement and
like the river trailer? Yeah, it has like sand.
Exactly.
Yeah, so we use that in our water festivals, and that's owned by NRCS, and they let us use that whenever we have an educational event. So yeah, we have access to that.
We got a break. It's Tom's turn, Kelly.
Oh, is that where that is?
Oh, pass it around.
Yeah, we'll pass it around. We're going to have to put this on the agenda and discuss this. Coffee delivery.
You're just jealous.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Oh, no. Yeah, some of us do feel a little left out.
Yeah,
Your next
yeah.
meeting.
And probably, maybe with the exception of Autumn, I think most people probably know, but this gentleman in the blue
Across
shirt
the
over
street.
here is Bob Sinnerhoff, and he's the chairman or president, I don't know which is
He's the
exactly.
director.
Commander-in-Chief.
Commander-in-Chief. He's the big wig up there.
We call him Mythwigs.
His Highness.
In Salida, the chairman of the Upper Arkansas Water Conservancy District, so.
Colorado. And here in the Upper Arkansas River Valley, water managers are tasked with balancing
Is this part of
diverse
the
water
PBS
uses,
thing?
including agriculture, municipal, industrial, recreational, and the environment. As our population grows, combined with increasing environmental and recreational demands, we need solutions that benefit all users. We need solutions like the Upper Arkansas Water Conservancy District's Trout Creek Park multi-use project.
Municipalities in this area are expanding because of growth demands. People wanting to move here and want to live here. Of course, the state of Colorado has always recognized you have to have storage in order to meet future demands. Larger entities can work together within drainage to be able to meet the demands for everybody, instead of each one doing it by themselves and having competing uses of water.
Future projects ought to be more multi-partnered, and since we have a lot of small municipalities, have diverse needs for non-consumptive use, agriculture can often benefit from supplemental water and things, it really makes sense to try to build projects that account for more than one entity's needs, especially since many of those entities are not in a position financially to do it on their own. The best way to do that is to build relationships. So we started talking with Paul Moltz, the landowner, and the person responsible for building Trout Creek Reservoir, and they realized that he had a vision that largely intersected with ours.
Trout Creek drains 60 square miles on Trout Creek Pass. The property is bounded on the north by the Highway 285. To the west is the Arkansas River. The elevation of this reservoir is 7950. The elevation at the airport in Buena Vista is 7950.4. That is strategic in not having to pump water, to be able to use gravity to move water. That all lends together to make potential development here of some kind.
The Upper Arkansas multi-use project for Trout Creek is an example of meeting integrated water management. There are diversions into these lands from not only Trout Creek, but also out of Cottonwood Creek and out of the main stem Arkansas River. So you have three sources of water that all come to this land. In order to have a true integrated plan, you have to have storage. This project has two components of that. One is this reservoir you see behind you, an expansion of that, surface water. Also, alluvial storage, where you actually place water in the ground.
How can we make better use of that water when it's in storage or when it's in transit to its final use?
We've put together Mr. Moltz's property along with the adjacent property owners. We have over 2,000 acres of irrigated land. It lends itself to using alternative transfer methods. So you can have temporary water supplies, then stored for later use.
Because the property borders the Arkansas River, we are looking at increasing the fishing access on the east side of the river by about 2 to 2.5 miles. And that would correlate well with two state wildlife areas that we have on the west side of the river already. And along with that, there's a need for an additional public access point through the Arkansas Headwaters Recreation Area up there in the Johnson Village area, where the adrenaline crowd can get out of the river and the more easygoing and fishing crowd can get in. In addition to all this, the Trout Creek Park area, deer and elk congregate there in the winter months because there is such a nice food supply in what's left of those fields after the harvest. We'd like to protect that component of what's going on there into the future as well.
You have hydrologic potential because of the gradient of the land for hydropower. So we basically are hitting almost every component of the Colorado water plant on one property in one location. And that's unique.
When I think about the Trout Creek project and the increased storage capability, this additional storage can be extended to other municipalities and water providers within the district, managed in the same integrated way. It's really different entities doing what they do best and hitting economies of scale, and along the way being able to provide more water for beneficial uses, both consumptive and non-consumptive, throughout the whole Conservancy District territory. This is a water project for the 21st century.
questions?
Chelsea, if I may just interject something here. Years ago, just for the local people here and yourself, Chelsea, I got together with Dan Riggs, who's the force or the game warden for our area, and we found and presented 12 different reservoirs up in our range. But then what happened? We had the wilderness area come in, so those 11 sites we got pushed down to the national forest. Now we're pushed down to private land, so we cannot go in and do this on national forest or a lot of different areas. So that's why we're looking at this particular project. So storage is really a key to everything now, and it's primarily with the state water plan. You take a look at all facets of it. Storage. How many storage units do we have now in our reservoirs?
Well, we store in
about 10 of them?
about 10. I think there's 9 of them.
Okay, 10. And then we also have space leased out at Lake East. And then we also have bought the water from the ski area. And that's when the ski area was going to sell their water out of the valley and the upper arch. We came in and bought it, and with the storage of the reservoirs, to keep it here for water augmentation plan and for the people here, and then we can control and manage that water like Chelsea has been talking about for the last 20 minutes and half an hour. So, anyway, I just wanted to interject that as to what has been done here on a local level.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much for coming and doing this.
Thank you for
so
having
much.
me.
Yes, thank you, Chelsea.
Please come back often and do it again.
I will, and I'm always going to update you on that water balance project, so you'll be hearing from me again.
Good, well, thank you for.
You need to bring us some bottled water next time.
Okay.
Hey, we got some new people to introduce.
Well,
Did that film make you thirsty?
Yes.
Just make me think about a 5-minute break.
yes. Would you mind if we take a 5-minute break? I think you're next on the agenda, so we'll be in recess for approximately 5 minutes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very important.
And I have to go with my grandkids' Easter eggs, because the big Easter egg hunt was this morning.
Yes, you're going for
So we
sure.
can visit.
Very important.
Oh my gosh.
This is his family.
Yeah. He said he was missing the Easter egg hunt. He got
Brought enough for all of us.
Very
But we're
nice.
going to have to get you a bigger desk there. I think you've earned it now. And I think you've proved yourself.
I had a bigger one, but this one's on wheels. It's a little easier to get it around. Well, thank you.
Go.
We'll reconvene the Board of County Commissioners meeting this morning. Our next item of business is a tri-county affordable housing study discussion. We've invited Autumn Devers to come up from the Upper Arkansas Area Council of Governments to visit with us about the pending housing study. So we can bring another chair in. You're welcome to sit there. You can come up if you'd like, whatever you care to do, Autumn.
All right, I'm going to stay right here then.
Okay. Well, welcome. We're glad to have you here.
Thank you. So, I'm Autumn Deaver. I'm the Housing Director for the Upper Arkansas Area Council of Governments. And as you all know, housing is a huge issue across our region and our state. And to help with that, to help figure out what exactly it is that we can do and what needs to be done in each of our counties, a housing needs assessment needs to be done. The last time one was done here in Custer County was also a 3-county study with Fremont and Lake, and it was done in 2008.
Okay.
So it's been 10 years, and they say you probably should update it about every 5 years, your study, because of the way the markets change and the way everything happens. So it's past time for us to do one. And a bunch of the counties have approached me and also have approached DOLA about helping with the cost of those. And I know we all, with your housing committee, have had that discussion.
I missed it, but where are you based out of? I'm sorry.
I'm out of
Canyon
City, and I cover 6 counties, I'm sorry. So I cover Fremont, Chaffee, Custer, Lake, Park, and Teller counties.
Great.
So, knowing that a bunch of the counties have been approaching DOLA to help alleviate the cost of these studies, DOLA came to us, the Council of Governments, and said, hey, you guys cover this region, would you put together a regional study? Would you get all the counties together so you guys can do a regional study? Chaffee County did a study in 2016, so they of course didn't need to be part of that study. And Lake County, just as the discussion was starting, Lake County got approved for a grant from DOLA to do their own study. So that removed those 2 counties. And then unbeknownst to us and DOLA, Teller County did a study in 2016. So they didn't feel they needed to do one so quickly and do a cost again.
Can you give us prices of those studies?
So Chaffee County's study was $45,000. Lake County's study is $60,000, but they're in the process.
In process.
It's in process now. I don't know anything about Teller County's study. I don't know the cost or.
Okay, thank you.
They just recently sent a copy to me. I haven't even reviewed it yet, have I? So the 3 counties that are left are Custer, Fremont, and Park then. And we've been talking for a little while. The Council of Governments did go get a grant from DOLA to pay part of the cost of that. And we felt at the time when we asked in that grant, we asked we asked for some guesstimates on what we thought a multi-county study would cost. And we requested $30,000 from DOLA, thinking that the cost would be $60,000 for a grant. And at the time that we requested the grant, it was for 4 counties, not knowing that Teller County was not going to participate.
So let me make sure I understood what you said. So there is a grant money that's already been approved.
Yes.
And so the 3 counties have to come up with the other half.
Matching funds, right.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's roughly 10,000 each, sounds right.
Roughly,
Okay.
Also in the cost from each of the counties is some of the administration for the COG to oversee the grant and making sure that the study gets completed and what is going to happen in that study. So we also have put out an RFP. We had 1 company respond. So we do have a proposal. The proposal came back at $53,700 for 3 counties. And I feel that that is a very reasonable price based on knowing that the single study for Chaffey County was $45,000 and the single study for Lake County is $60,000. $53,000 is a very reasonable, like I said, very reasonable for a 3-county study. The studies, part of the reason everybody does a study is, yes, we all know we have a housing problem, but this defines it. It looks at your economy, it projects, are you going to bring in businesses, how many people are projected to live there, how much housing do you currently have, how much housing are you going to need in the future, what is your lack of housing that you currently have, what's the lack that you're going to have in the future. It looks at all these different aspects. And you need housing in order to attract business. It's one of those economic things. So we feel that this is a very needy thing that it's needed in our region. And we, like I said, we've been talking for these 3 counties from the beginning about this study. So we're ready to move forward with this company. Just ironing out some of the details before we sign a contract with them, and we want to know if you guys are on board or not.
All right.
Can I comment?
Yes.
I really appreciate you coming. We had our phone conversation a couple days ago, and we were not overly encouraging. I get that. We told you we need to think it through, and I've put a lot of thought into this, and it's really kind of getting me a little bit. I was on board, and I don't believe these gentlemen were, over a year ago when we talked about upgrading this study. In my opinion, I can't find the notes, and Brenda couldn't find it in the minutes, and I'm old, so it's very possible I'm making up what I'm telling you, but what I thought I remembered was that we would spend the money to upgrade the 2008 study rather than do a brand new study, and the cost to the counties would be somewhere in the $2,000 range to upgrade it. Did I dream that? And it's very possible.
So as an example, Chaffey County upgraded theirs for $45,000.
So that was an upgrade. That was not
that was an upgrade. That wasn't a total new study.
Right.
All right,
So I'm not sure that we can even.
Okay, I don't know where that came
Who was
from.
the outfit that did it? Was
The
it
same company that actually has
that's
done
doing
the
this now?
proposal for us. Yeah.
So let me tell you where my mind is, and I'm speaking for just myself. Fremont County has about 50,000 population. Park has 16.2, Custer has 4,400. Those came off of Wikipedia, trust them or not, those are just round numbers. The cost of the study was about 58,000, is that correct? 53.7. Okay, let's say 54. And then at least one of the counties wanted to add a $20,000 additional study that went with that. So, and I can't imagine you could do that for just one, you'd have to do it for all.
Well, I'm going to ask if we can do it for one.
Okay, that's fine. But here's where my mind's coming from, okay? Absolutely, positively, something needs to get done. There's absolutely no, I won't speak for my fellow commissioners, but I think we all agree we need affordable housing, okay? But I'm looking at the populations, and I think this fee needs to be allocated based on population as opposed to third. We have, and this has nothing to do with you, but Custer County has taken the brunt of other expenses that Fremont County has foregone that they should not have. I'm talking about you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Other things.
That is still claws me in the back because I being Custer County, had to make up that difference. I didn't appreciate it. My feeling is based on allocation, 70% of the fee should be from, if I did my math right, I'm looking at it, 70% of the fee should come from Fremont, Lake, Park should be 22%, and Custer should be 6%. That's a fair allocation based on population, because that's who's going to use this. So my feeling is, if the other counties agree to that, and I'm willing to discuss 6% kind of low, you know, but I don't think we should pay a one-third expense for this. So I have a real issue paying a third of the study when we have 4,400 people and Fremont has 50,000. This is not appropriate, in my opinion, and that's where my issue comes in. I recognize if I go out on my own, I being Custer County, go out on my own, I'm gonna pay much more than the total. So at least this way I'm getting a third off. But I'm not sure this is a good use of our money. The 2008, as far as I know, was used for nothing. I don't believe anything ever came out of that. So this is my concern. Every time I look at a dollar I spend or agree to spend, I look at the taxpayer money, and I really have to guard that with my life. And I just don't feel this is a fair way to pay for this.
Let me pile on before you answer, because Jay's got a good point. How much affordable housing is in Fremont County? They have none.
So Fremont County hasn't built a new affordable housing project since 2010. They recently, they're in process of building a permanent supportive housing project, which is a housing project for the homeless. And that would be considered their most recent project. But it's for a specific population. It's not for families.
So it wouldn't fall under the typical affordable housing definition.
Right.
And the housing market doesn't have affordable housing prices.
Correct. No, it does not.
Park County the same?
Park County is worse. Park County doesn't have a single affordable housing apartment complex in the entire county. Custer County has 2. So.
May I?
Yeah.
When I think about affordable housing, certainly including the apartment route, but I also think of affordable housing as single-family dwelling, entry-level homes. Has there been movement of that in Fremont or Park County, or is it just kind of the apartment route?
So Park County is struggling. They have affordable land, but they don't have anybody that is building. Fremont County has a little bit building, but it's not affordable housing that's being built right now. It's 300,000 plus homes that's being built, so that is not affordable.
Do you have a definition of what an affordable house is?
So, according to HUD, affordable is based on a family's income. A family pays approximately 30% of income towards housing costs, and that includes rent and utilities, rent and mortgage and utilities. So 30% is considered affordable. Anything over that is a burden, and of course anything under that is good for you. And in this day and age, 30%, it's very hard. A lot of people, the majority of our region is paying over 50% of their income.
For a payment?
For housing.
Mm-hmm. Now, affordable housing is then geared towards the rental market or the home buyer?
It's both ways. Both? And the study looks at both too. It looks at the rental and it looks at for sale and availability and things like that.
Of what's existing?
No, it looks both ways. For what's existing and projections.
Potential. I concur a lot with what Jay said. We crunched some numbers. The one thing we didn't talk about was the Council of Governments administrative fee on this project. 15 grand roughly, 15,000.
So the total probably for us, it's about $8,000 total, and then divided out between. And that's based on the actual cost. It's about $8,000 for the administration.
Okay. Divided by 3 would be each county. count these, okay, I just wanna make sure
So,
it wasn't 8,000 per county.
No, that's total.
So roughly, we're looking around 81,000. At 88,000, because I thought we heard yesterday in our conference call that the administrative fee was gonna be in that $14,000 range, so that's what I plugged in. So I'll just use that because I've got the
Say that again,
figures.
So
Tom.
let's-
What's that number?
So I have numbers here. So based on what the consultant proposed and the administration fee on that figure, each county would pay $12,856.
53.7 did not include your fees.
It does not include that.
Okay, so give me just a second.
$12,856 and 89 cents.
If you split it 3 ways.
It's split 3 ways.
Does that include the $20,000 add-on?
That does not. That's just without. So if I add the $20,000, then each county would be $19,269.
What was the add-on?
For the housing study, household survey.
There's an additional cost because there's some additional legwork that needs to be done if we add a household survey to this.
Okay, so, and thank you for that information. So, for number crunching, I've estimated in the Tri-County area, there's 77,000 people. So if we take 81,000 and divide that by 77,000, that comes up at $1.05 per person, if we're talking about residents in these counties, across the board for all 3 counties. If we take $1.05 per person and multiply that by 4,600 is the number of people in our county, that's $4,838. That is a far cry from 19 grand. Because we are being asked to pay for a ton of people that live in Fremont County.
Okay, so
Disproportionate.
for the study, it's not based on the people. They still have to do the same amount of work for
I don't,
each county.
may I? Because I don't agree with that statement, number one. How many businesses do you suppose there are in Fremont County for them to survey? Let's say there's 150? I don't either exactly. But I can tell you there's probably no more than 40 or 50 businesses in this county, and that's probably high. So when we say that EPS has to do the same amount of work, I just don't agree with that. I don't see how that makes common sense that they have to do the same amount of work in Custer County that they would in Fremont County.
We love you, by the way.
Yeah, we're not trying to shoot the messenger.
We're not killing the messenger. We're
Yeah.
just concerned about our county's expenses.
Yeah.
I understand that too.
Yeah, and we were told that yesterday in the conference call, that it's the same amount of work. I just want to pull my hair out because I do not believe that that can be the truth. I'll bet you they will not spend the same amount of hours in Custer County conducting this survey as they will in Fremont County. I don't get that, how they could, because there's 11 times more people that live down there.
So, based on conversations that I've had with EPS, with them doing the project in Lake County, excuse me, they have been physically in Lake County 3 times. They've spoken on the phone, I don't know how many hours, to different entities in different places. And I would feel that they would do the same thing for Custer County, Park County, and Fremont County. Yes, I know the population is more, we do have more businesses, we do have more real estate agents, things like that. But they're not gonna talk to every business, they're not talking to every real estate agent. And I know part of the conversation will be with me also, telling them what I know about each of those counties and how we can help and all those other things too.
Well, let me make a comment on that, since everybody's getting a pot shot here.
That's why I told you.
Just out of curiosity, I understand that world. I get it, and there's probably a base cost to spin up and mobilize your workforce, whoever the company is, to go to County A, County B. There's probably a baseline. It costs the same. But above that, there's going to be whatever the differences is per county that they're analyzing and giving some extra thought to. So do you think, is this an unreasonable request to ask to prorate these? Is there some law that says, or some rule that you all have that you don't do that, it is what it is, what's the deal?
There's not a rule that says we don't do that. So, I'm just
Worried
going-
Fremont won't pay if we make them pay more?
I can't answer for Fremont County, I don't know any answers for that.
They aren't paying now.
Nor do I want to answer
Yeah.
that.
Not gonna touch that.
Or should you?
They will want us to more.
That's what's
Not
happening.
going there.
Proportionately.
I just know from working with some of these companies and seeing what they do, I just feel that they would do the same thing for you that they're going to do in the other counties.
Okay. I have some serious struggle with this optional task 5.2, the household survey for 20 grand. I mean, that cuts us in for $7,200, $6,900, whatever. They throw 8 lines in this study and say basically a household survey can provide valuable primary data, and that's going to cost us $7,000.
So when I saw that, I also have concerns about that too. And when we were talking to them before they presented their proposal, I asked about that. And I asked, can we get the same results without this survey? And they said yes. So my opinion, for what it's worth, I'm not sure that we need a household study. I think we can still get the same results, learn the same thing that we want to know without that.
But the gentleman from Park County,
That's why I'm
who
going.
also threatened us, which I didn't approve, but that's another issue, really wanted it, so it's either gonna be in or not in. So either we're all gonna pay for it or none of us will pay for it. I'm assuming, I can't imagine they're just gonna do that for Park only.
Why didn't he threaten you? I wasn't on the call, so what happened?
Well, he basically said that I asked, or at least tried to explain to the group, that we are not lightly considering backing out of this, that it's a financial concern, we're not questioning the need, but it was finance, it was money. And so Dick Ellsworth, commissioner, I believe, from Park County, said that it would certainly jeopardize the whole project if we were to back out, and that it would.
So you better stay in it.
And that we would
Jeopardize the project was not the problem.
Right, that's what the problem. He followed up with saying, and you need to know that you will. I can't quote it.
If you do it on your own, it's going to be more.
No, that you will find it very
with your other
difficult to maintain a good relationship with your other counties. That may be a true statement. I don't know that.
Well, look at us in Fremont
But
right
they've
now.
damaged
We have a
our
good relationship now.
So,
I'm not mad at Park, I'm not mad at Fremont.
yeah. So, yeah, I thought that was a little uncalled for, but apparently he wanted to get his point across. And I know we probably blindsided them a little, but I go back to this, the fact that we received this proposal from EPS on March 19th is when it hit my desk. And I've got an email here on March 20th. I don't know if it was to you or to Judy, because I didn't personally know you at the time. And I said, I could pull it up if you want, but basically that in my opinion, I believe we are going to have some serious concern about the finances of this. And then, of course, yesterday the comment was made back to us that we waited till the last minute to bring this topic up. That is not true. That was an unfounded statement. The day after we were informed of this proposal, I responded that that's a concern for us. It wasn't a budgeted item. We're going to have to dig this money up from somewhere. It was not a line item budget for this study. Everybody on the phone seemed pretty comfortable with the idea that they expected it was going to be $60,000. I couldn't have told you within $40,000 how much it was going to cost, personally, as the chairman of the commission up here. So
did we, I thought we talked about money that day we had that first meeting and said that we had that we had received the grant.
We did talk about the grant. And that we're going to be split in 3 ways instead of 4.
Right.
But
and that the grant
maybe that
was for
60 grand was put
Yeah.
out there. I do not remember that, but I'm not going to discount that because subsequently, as in yesterday, and it was hard for me to identify who was talking, so I keep saying you guys. I don't mean that literally, but someone said that we had estimated all along was gonna be $60,000.
Right, and then you guys implied, or when it was asked, I'm just trying to clear things up for a
Right.
second, that, you didn't receive the email from Judy with the agreements with the total 60,000 plus the other things in there that she sent out to all of the entities.
Right, she mentioned that it was roughly 14,000 would be our share, and I do not recall getting that. I've only been in office since November 22nd.
So Judy would have sent it after that first meeting. She sent it out back in February.
Okay.
Fremont County signed it on February 27th, so it was before that. And I wanna say it was like the 14th.
Sent how and to who?
She
Probably an email, huh?
Sent it by email.
Okay.
And I believe she just sent it to the entities that were involved in that first meeting. So Tom and Jay were there, so it would have went to you and then to the other folks that were there.
Would it come from Judy?
It would have come from Judy.
I have never erased a single email I've gotten.
Oh, yeah, right. That's
I
my
keep
fault.
every single one of them.
I'm looking.
And it's possible.
Yeah, I'm not discounting it. I certainly do
I
not.
certainly hit a button or
Of course, the minute I say that, I'll go, oh, wait a minute, let me look at this, and it would be that, but,
or I forgot.
Because she was trying up front to say, this is what we project your costs to be, without knowing exactly what the proposal was gonna come back as.
Well, be it what it is, whatever it is, how do we move forward? Because I agree, we can't be disproportionately billed here, and we do need the study. So what do we do? And I don't like hearing the fact that we've got commissioners that want to declare war on us. You know, so
It wasn't that.
You know,
It wasn't
so
that. I don't
so
mean to
what,
make a big deal of it.
So what the bottom line is, I mean, it is what it is. This outfit we've only got one bid on for some reason, and it's the same as before.
I'm sorry, I could probably explain why we only got one bid. I did have 2 to 3, I don't remember exactly, other companies email me back and say, we are so busy working on studies across the state, we don't feel that it would be appropriate for us to give you a bid because we wouldn't give it the time and effort that it needs.
Okay, so there's no, in other words, there's not enough people out there to do the studies.
Correct.
And they're all busy except for this one dude.
Yeah, and part of the reason I like this company and that they felt comfortable giving us the bid is they've done those studies in the other regions. They're the ones doing the Lake County study right now. They're the ones that did the Chaffey County study.
So it should be cheaper.
They worked in some of the counties around us. Well, and I feel it is cheaper because if you're basing it off of Lake County study, that's $60,000 for one county.
Yeah, but see, remember your base prices, you just told me it's gonna be the same somewhere.
Well,
They've
and I have
already
to ask.
used that base price up in my mind.
I have to ask
doing that
about
other
that.
stuff.
I have to ask what that is.
So it seems to me reasonable to prorate this somehow, and maybe it means we get together with the other 3 counties and have a real good discussion, not an adversarial discussion with them on how we're gonna go forward as a group.
well, sounds very reasonable. We've got a few issues about that.
Right. So we got
one being the timeline. I did find the IGA. It was dated February 15th. Not to steer away from what you were saying, but she does say, I'm assuming this is from Judy, I didn't even really pay attention, $14,387 per county, members' government's responsibility, contribute a prorated share. I'm assuming prorated there means divided by 3. That's of the actual cost of the matching funds for the consultant services. I'd also like to ask I don't know what the money spent on the 2008 study was?
2008 was $45,000.
Split.
It was split three ways.
Did Custer County do anything from that study?
Not to my knowledge. I tried to find that out if this was just, it's an important study, but I'm gonna use the term waste the money, pay for a study that we didn't use the results from.
And the study in 2008, the majority of that study was paid for by a grant that we received from the Division of Housing. The
Correct.
Division of Housing no longer funds those studies
I've got that, but you're right.
because they feel that there are other ways of paying for it and that each of the counties that are participating in it need to have some skin in it.
So what is the product? How do we use it?
So I brought Chaffey County's study,
Mm-hmm.
and then I also brought the one from 2008 if you wanted to see it too. And I can electronically send those to you so you guys can look at them versus give
Because I've
them to
never
my-
seen the 08.
Yeah, don't
Okay.
that'd be perfect.
Yeah, I'll email those to you guys. So this is the product, and the company, we requested that the company go to each county when they are done and do a presentation of this is what we learned and this is our recommendations that you do with what we learned.
Okay.
So.
And did we get that before? Jay, were you part of that? Did you ever see
I was
anything?
not, but when this originally came up, I found that and I read it, and I think I spoke to someone in affordable housing. Did we do anything with it? And the answer that I got, I remember, who did I speak to you, Mike, maybe? Somebody, and they said, we don't believe we did anything with the study. And did anything in terms of building or using it
Taking a
for anything.
recommendation and executing.
I do know that one of your affordable housing projects that Bill Simpson developed used part of that to back up what he was doing.
Very possible.
That's one. I don't know anything. I don't know what else was used.
Not a significant number of people, but there have certainly been citizens in this county that have said to me point blank, why in the hell would you spend money on a study when we know we have a need for affordable housing in this county? Either apartments, single-family dwellings, rental, purchase, pretty clear that we have a need. I understand from our conversation at our meeting down there before, one of the deliverables from this document would be to go to outside investors, apply for grants. It's a document that we could use to help leverage some of those efforts. I understand that. I wished I could tell you that we would use outside investors to build affordable housing here. We might. I have no idea about that. I do know there are private investors in this county that would like to spend money on affordable housing. Entities and individuals. We don't need a study to go to them.
So part of what the study is going to tell you, and yes, I know, we know across the state and across much of the United States, there is a need for affordable housing. But do you know how many rental units that you need? Do you know how many people in your county are willing to buy a house, but there's not a house available for them? Do you know what level of housing they qualify for? Do you know how many units or sell houses need to be built or are available on the market currently for this income range? That the study is going to tell you that.
I understand. And point well taken.
The study will also tell you, which I'm sure you guys being county commissioners probably know this or know a lot of it, but they're also going to look at some of those economic things that impact housing. Are there businesses that are looking at coming into the county that are going to produce some jobs? They're going to try to see how that works and what your job growth is, and is it being affected by housing? Because there's lack of housing. They're going to talk about that too if they find that in here too. And then they're going to give you recommendations of things that you can do, which some of it you may know about, but some of it you may not know about. Some of the recommendations to Chaffey County were changing some of their zoning to do inclusionary zoning for affordable housing. And inclusionary zoning, do you know what that is or doing?
No.
Okay, so inclusionary zoning is you have a developer who comes in and he's going to develop a piece of land and he's going to build houses on it. But part of your zoning regulations say that, okay, you're going to build it, but you, developer, need to include a certain percentage in that for affordable housing. so that you know in the future you're helping part of that affordable housing issue because of some of your zoning regulations. It also talks about, which I'm gonna say the bad word, it talks about taxes that could be created to pay for some of that affordable housing. Or it talks about taxes that you already have that you could redesignate and set aside for affordable housing or some other things.
Do you think this study would treat 3 counties differently? Or are they gonna do a tri-county approach and say, in this tri-county area, here's what we have found?
When I had the initial conversation with this company, I want them to treat you differently. Because each of you have different issues. For example, Park County is we're all very rural, but Park County has some available land, it's very cheap, people have been buying it, and they're setting up RV and camp trailers on it, not hooking into any of the systems, no water, no sewer, and have caused their own issue. And that is happening on a grand scale that has caused its own issue. And I want the company to take that into account. I mean, Custer County has issues too with our VRBOs, vacation rentals, and some other things too, second homes. I want them to look at you all differently because you all have different things. Yes, you have some things in common, but I don't want that to overshadow each of your identities.
Can I ask, Mike, would you like to weigh in on this? But you don't have to, I'm not putting you on the spot, but I mean, you are one of our leaders in the affordable housing area.
You might as well, because I'm going to put him on the spot here in a few minutes.
No, I don't want to put him on the spot. No, I'm going to be.
I'm going to.
Keeping it under an hour. Which I think a number of things. One is we've been talking to the COG about the self-help housing for a long time, and we haven't had it here. And I think Tom's point is, if the study tells us we need 28 units or 29, I mean, I think we know we need units.
Right.
And I don't think if we have the study, we'll build 29 units rather than 28. We need affordable housing.
So what do you think about doing a study? I mean, do we need that? Or, I mean, will that help? I sit on that committee with you. I'm very attuned to affordable housing. I hope you know I've always been, yes, we do. I'm trying to decide that we want to spend a significant amount of money to learn something that, are we going to learn something new that we can use for that money? Is it going to be worth it? And of course, we never know that till you read the final report. I get that.
Well, I don't remember the 2008 study, them coming here and reporting to us and making any recommendations. And it was sort of obvious that, within 50% what we needed.
Jackie, I know you've
I have a couple
been
things.
interested in saying something.
No, I
And we're going to vote today,
you guys,
most likely.
You
so.
guys actually asked some of the questions I had, but most of the affordable housing, if I'm understanding correctly, is in the towns.
True. I would guess
How much are the towns willing to kick into this study? And I want to go into the study business right now. I'm going to, heck, Dan can quit working, we'll just travel around the state and ask questions. I like it a lot. What's the other one? Oh.
Okay. Can I respond to that? Westcliff, I think I mentioned it earlier.
You said they had some land.
Yes, they have land. The initial discussions are very preliminary. They're willing to do several things to help affordable housing. They're willing to donate the land. They're willing to, once we have the definition, whether we use the HUD definition or whatever definition they have, pass an ordinance that says any house that costs less than whatever, and if it's a percentage, that's fine. Define what affordable housing is, then some of the infrastructure that normally would be needed would be abated. For example, curb and gutter maybe, obviously not sewer and water, but some of the street lights may be abated. Those kind of things to help the developers build to keep that cost down, because the infrastructure is the killer. We also are speaking with the university, Colorado College, who has potential land at Silver Cliff that could be used. I know that the mayor of Silver Cliff has been very attuned to this, and he said that he would do whatever ordinances are necessary to help facilitate that if land does become available. So I think we have some excellent potentials to move forward. The thing that we really have that I like, we have one, and of course anything we do is going to be out for bid, obviously, if it's through the municipality, but at least one gentleman, SMA, I believe his name.
Tony and Esme.
Esme? Okay. Has shown us what they could produce for a very limited amount of money that would help with our affordable housing. So I think we're gearing up to move this. So yes, the towns are very important, because one of the questions is in affordable housing, and I'm not talking about Section 8 housing, affordable housing is the towns are really good because there's walking distance to facilities and that kind of thing, or bicycle, you know what I'm saying. So yeah, the towns have to be involved, and I think the towns have been approached and are very much in tune with this. So,
but are they willing to take down our study, or do we even need the study?
And
are the recommendations that are in there for Chafee recommendations we could just read their report and go, that makes sense, that doesn't make sense, that makes sense.
$10 a word, maybe.
Well, seriously,
we don't.
Seriously, you know, read the surrounding counties' reports. I know they wouldn't like it, but you pay for it, we'll read it. But it's not in the budget. I just don't know. These study things drive me crazy, because they seem to just pile up, and somebody's making a ton of money doing studies, and then you get back something you already knew.
Well, and therein lies exactly the question that we're bringing up today. We got a study 10 years ago. There may have been some limited amount of use for it, but mostly it was going, yep, we need more houses. I agree. So,
I'd like to speak to the financial side of it, if I may, gentlemen. There is not a line item in our budget for a study. We have a line item for economic development, and we have a line item for affordable housing. Those two line items could be sources of funding for this. I've had communications with both Affordable Housing Group and the Economic Development Group, and they are willing to utilize some of that for this study. So I would say, based on that, there is potential money in the budget to pay for this study. I think Jackie brings up a great point. I would guess that this study would point to the two towns as the area for affordable housing. I don't think they're going to say you need an apartment 6 miles south of town to house 12 people.
And our zoning wouldn't allow it.
Anyway. Zoning wouldn't allow it anyway, but back to that, maybe we have to look at some zoning things. That would come out of that study. I don't believe that would be the case, because anybody with any common sense is going to say your affordable housing needs to be here for the obvious reasons that Jay spoke about. I would guess, in my opinion, I've lived here for 32 years, I believe there are a half a dozen intelligent people that could spend 3 months or 2 months and probably tell us what we need to know. There are some very progressive people in this county that would think that would be the most ignorant statement they could ever hear from a county commissioner. But it's what I truly believe, so why should I not say that? I don't think we're gonna go all over the US trying to attract investors to come in here and build 12 or 15 or 24 unit apartments for affordable housing. It doesn't fit in our culture, and we're just different than, I'll use Canyon City. I could see an apartment building being in Canyon City. I mean, we could do it here physically, yeah, and we do have some. But I would guess here, affordable housing for what we are talking about in our county to help employment situation, job force, workforce, is single family dwellings under $150,000. Now, you can't build a house here for $150,000 if you're paying all of it. But as Jay said, if we get land donated, if we can get some infrastructure abated, which they've indicated they'd be willing to do that, then I think that's reasonable. A $150,000 home, we're probably looking at $800 a month for a mortgage.
There are mortgage products that they'll pay for that too, that make it cheaper, that make it less than that.
What about grants? Where would they come in? If we did the study, what would we go after a grant for? Physical dollars to start building houses?
You could do that. You could also go after money to help with some of those infrastructure items that you talked about. You could also use it as leverage to attract some businesses to come move a business here or put a business in.
Affordable housing.
So that's really related to, it could just be
economic
any business.
development.
Economic development. You
You know,
need
that was-
housing for economic development. And in Colorado lately, that seems to be the question that every business is asking. Where are they gonna live if
We have that major
where are they gonna
problem.
live?
It's a significant, we
So,
can't get a teacher because we have no place for them to live.
Yep.
All right, let me try my shot here too, again. I've been here a long time. And I think, like Tom said and both Jay, I think we know what the study results are. We already have that ability. The biggest draw, you mentioned the school. We need a place for them to stay, and we need the wages to pay them. And I don't think it takes a $50,000 study to tell us we need 20 more houses, that are affordable. We can get that ourselves, I think. And I would rather spend the money on going after grants that we know will help us do that, as opposed to spending it now to tell us that what we already know. My view. So I am 100%. But give me the but.
Study, the study is an integral part of obtaining the grants.
Maybe not though.
So I could probably tell you what the study is going to say for all three counties, just because I know housing.
Let's
in
give
all
you
three
25,000.
That's what I mean.
would love that.
So you understand our frustration.
I think we could spend
And
that
I
money
have
to find that.
I have a huge frustration with that too, because I know what's wrong in our counties. I know where the need is. I know some of these other things that we can do. I can work with you to help you do all this stuff. None of the entities that have the grants or have the funding or are going to help you with some of this other stuff will recognize that I know that. They want an independent study.
You're right.
To do it.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry.
If we need those people, if we need grants, or if we need to attract investors, if we take those two things out of the mix,
I don't know how you are going to do affordable housing without those entities.
okay? Here's
You
my
cannot build housing that is affordable without some of those things that are available
Okay.
to you.
investors. Let's not say outside. Let's just say investors. I would take exception in this vein that I think probably there are people in this room that can make a phone call and get a commitment from a private investor for enough cash to build a single-family dwelling home in Custer County. Can we build 20 or 30? I think probably that survey will come back and say, you need 35 units.
Well, for example, Chaffey County says that over the next 10 years, they need almost 4,000 units. There is no possible way you are building 4,000 units in 10 years.
No.
But for an intelligent discussion, they say take 10% of that and you should be able to build that. So
10% of 4,000, so 400, right?
Over the next 10 years.
Over the next 10 years. And where is the intelligence in that line of thinking that we're 90% off,
well,
or we're 90% unrealistic? That's insanity.
I agree.
They paid
Part of it
$50,000
part of
for
it
that.
they think that the market will take care of. And they especially think that the market will take care of the 120% AMI or over that. That the market will just take care of that piece of it. The study's still going to tell you that, yeah, there's a need in that area, but then they say the market's taking care of that.
What did the study in 08
So
tell us? It told us we needed affordable housing. Come on.
So,
The current studies are much better than the 08 study.
But right, so they're better. We know they said we needed 20 then, and now they're going to tell us we need 25.
so let me just, this is just me thinking. The studies come in and tell us we need whatever number. A number that we know we cannot do, just as in Chaffey County. So we could just take the assumption today that whatever the study says, the most we could do is what we need to do, because it's never going to reach the number that the study's going to say. So we should start tomorrow and start just making as many as we can, and no matter how many we can make, how many we can produce, will not meet what the study feels that we really need for the future. I know you're very uncomfortable, I can tell.
No, so
get back to, let's cut all this nonsense. Here's how I feel. If we can allocate the funds on this study by county, by population, I'm in. Because I believe there's utility in the study to go out and go to, I don't know if DOLA does this kind of granting, but whoever does, say, here's the study proving that we need what we're telling you we need. There's utility in that. But is it going to be worth the county spending this significant amount of money to attract those grants? I don't know that. And of course, we never know those things when we go into these. So my feeling is, and I'm not speaking for anybody else, I would support doing the study based upon a population or per capita expense towards the cost of the study. That just makes sense to me.
Okay. I would support this study based on several things. Number one, if the 5.2 household survey is included, I'm all out. I don't want to speak for EPS, but I can't imagine them coming up here and going into these households more than about 15 or 20 times and using that as a sample. That is not worth our share of $20,000. I would be comfortable with a per capita investment as well. I think that is fair. And that's what I'm concerned about, is what is fair and right. I would also entertain being involved in this study if affordable housing and economic development want to step up and utilize some of the funds out of those two. It's not their money, but it's a budget item or a line item in the budget earmarked for those two efforts. So we're looking at $6,432 a piece without the $20,000 household survey.
Almost it was 12,856.
Right, divided by 2, affordable housing and economic development.
Oh, I see what you're going.
Gives us, each one of them would have to kick in $6,400.
Is it even in the budget? Yeah, I think it is.
Yes.
But, I mean, they would have to tell us they want to do that.
And that's why I said I was going to put Mr. Liebman on the spot before the day is out. Would you be comfortable in spending $6,400 of that earmarked money for affordable housing on a study? It's not truly fair because you haven't even seen the proposal, but I've seen it, and what it tells me is they want $53,000. That's where it boils out. But you would be comfortable in earmarking that money.
Just to get it closer to getting it going.
And I'm confident that I can tell you economic development would say the same thing, because I couldn't give them a hard number, but I gave them a range. So, gentlemen, that information in my bill, you certainly have an opportunity to respond.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm not sure what we gain from this additional study that we don't already have the ability to use. And I understand we have to have data to go after grants and those kinds of things. I would be willing to prorate it to whatever level, but we need to understand what we are going to gain by it. I think that's a big question. I still, and from what I've been listening to, and I know looking at the Park County study or whatever, if they're going to tell us we need more housing. We know that, and we know who the most needy are right now. It's the teachers that need to be attracted to this county, and it's to drive the mortgage cost down, and there are ways to offset that with different kinds of mechanisms. If they're going to tell us something we don't already know, I'm all for that. And it's hard to get it from your discussion, and I heard him say, and he kind of waffled on his last statement. He was saying we probably don't need that study initially, but if we can gain something, I'm willing to spend a few bucks to go get it.
So let me tell you what the study will do for me at the COG. Good. Okay.
Yeah. But by the way, there is an industry out of there, like everybody has said, doing studies, and so go ahead.
Yeah. So the COG currently does a number of affordable housing programs. We do Section 8 housing, and here in Custer County we have 12 vouchers. We do housing rehab, which family owns their home. If they need repairs made to it, we come in and help them do that at a very low interest rate. Our interest rate is about 2% right now.
Where's the money come from?
It's CDBG funds that we apply to the state for. Okay. We also do self-help housing.
Can you define that for us?
Self-help housing? It is in partnership with USDA Rural Development. It is a sweat equity home building program. So people put in 65% of the labor. We provide the technical assistance to those families to help them, they build their own house. It is a really good program. The family, they build in a group of 3 to 6 families. They're building their neighborhoods, literally building their neighborhoods. We also do housing counseling. So we do pre-purchase counseling, post-purchase counseling, foreclosure prevention, identity counseling, student loan counseling. We do all kinds of counseling things. We also package 502 loans for rural development, which is a mortgage product. Okay, and those are the main programs. I do a bunch of little supplemental things for all of those programs, but those are the main ones. So, anytime I tell the state, the Division of Housing, hey, I can use more vouchers in my region, they want to know, prove it. Why? Tell me what's your problem, why do you need that? Well, I can say all day, I have all these things. They don't care that I say that. They want me to back it up with data, and I have to have a study to do that. And there's been a number of times where I have said, hey, in Custer County too, hey, I need more vouchers, or hey, this is going on, what can you guys do to help me? And they're like, show me the numbers. Right. I need you. So, because we don't have a current study, I can't back up what I'm telling them. And they say, I hear that all across the state, prove it.
So if a family from Custer County came to you for a 502 loan for a house that was built.
So the family has to be, their income has to be 80% of the area median income or lower. And USDA has a cap on the amount of money that they will loan per county. And I don't know Custer County's off the top of my head. but it's about the 200,000 range.
Would you need that kind of proof, documented proof for a family to get involved with the 502 loan? Or is that fact that they're asking you enough proof that there's a need for a 502 loan?
Okay, so where I need those numbers for 502 is when Congress says, we're going to cut 502 completely out of the budget. I need to go, no, you can't do that because in rural Colorado, we have this huge need.
Okay.
But me saying we have a huge need, I need to back up with, we have this many people that would qualify for this program. And if you cut it, those people will never be able to buy a house.
Well, I think Mike Liebman's comment that he's willing to spend budget money.
By the way, over half.
You're not going to have much left. I looked at the budget this morning. Yeah, page 42, I believe. I looked.
And I said that to put a framework around his willingness to commit over half of that line item budget. Is that correct, Mr. Reed? Okay.
Okay. So I'm so torn here. I tell you, I'm just torn. I'm torn because it's not fair proportionately for us to pay 1/3 when we are 6% of the total population of 3 counties. That's not right in my opinion. I think a study is very important. I agree with what you're saying in terms of helping attract additional grants and money. I absolutely agree with Commissioner Kander when he's saying, you know, what are you going to tell me, something I don't already know? And we know that. But the paper is the ticket. I know I need to take a train ride, but if I don't have the ticket, I'm not getting on.
When is that scheduled? What's the pressure?
I've got it here.
I mean, if you need us to say go do something, when do you need it?
I need to sign a contract with the EPS fairly quickly.
For April 6th.
Yeah.
That's really
I
quick.
got a week.
Which we knew that. We knew the
So let's go back to our discussion. Is there time to go argue with somebody to say we're going to prorate this and still get a go-ahead from all 3 counties?
Probably could via phone conference. I want to throw out another possibility.
Sure.
Something for us to think about. We're looking at, without the household survey, so let's assume that's out, 12,800. What if we sent Autumn back with the message of, you know what, we'll be somewhat reasonable. We believe truly that it should be a per capita thing, but instead of 12,800, we'll kick in $8,000 or some number, and then say that puts you at 4. It puts economic development at 4. It puts that 8,000 is about 3,000 more than the per capita rate, pro rate would really be.
Well, yeah, it was $600, right?
No, it was 5,000 if we
I thought
paid.
the analysis somebody did recently, wasn't you said it, didn't you, James?
I'm sorry.
The amount we would pay is really low compared to the.
No, based on, if we did a per person,
Yeah.
4,800, 4,900
Right,
dollars,
so
so figure
I think we
5,000.
So if we paid,
Keep it close.
maybe even, if we paid twice what we feel our per capita share is, and let the larger counties kick in the balance
Let
to
them
make
argue.
it up. That sounds reasonable to me. We could take it out of the budget, but, you know, they're gonna have to agree. Or we may have to pull out. I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean,
Well, I think that's a
I'm very,
reasonable
very
approach.
torn.
We're beating a horse to death here. But I
Well,
think
we're coming up with a-
yeah,
that's a
but
good,
we're
that's a good thought.
working
She's got to get on the
towards
phone
where
and
we
have with something to argue,
Uh,
to negotiate
We're
with.
gonna leave today with something. I
Part of
promise
the
that.
Gotta give her a
deal-
negotiating stick here.
Part of the deal for me as a county commissioner, I want to honor what you guys are trying to do,
Right.
what we said we would do.
Need to do.
Right.
To try to honor that, plus honor the fact that we need to make a decision based on what we feel is right for our county,
Right.
not is what's right for helping out Fremont County and Park County. Does that make sense? I mean, us being in it is going to help them out. I think it's gonna help them more than what we will really realize in our county. And that's an opinion.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but I just want you to remind you that part of the reason the COG stepped up and said, we want to help do this in this region, is because Custer County started the discussion. Custer County is the one that said, hey, we think we need a study a year or so ago.
Okay.
And by including those other counties in it, the cost to you was considerably less.
Right, and that's what Tom just said.
Okay.
We got
Yeah, that's what I wanna honor, is
Okay.
that whole process, that whatever was
we're
done
in it, we
the
said
past.
we were.
Because what you just said is new information for Bill and I.
Right.
Yeah.
Had no idea how this all got started, but it's your point is well taken.
What do you think they would say if we went to Fremont Park and said, we're only willing to pay $7,000, $8,000, whatever the number is?
Good man.
Are they gonna say, forget the whole thing?
I don't know the answer to that.
You have a relationship with them, you have a
Yes,
gut feeling.
Well, let's make sure we got the numbers sorted out, because I've got many written down here. 53.7 for the study. 12.856 for our share.
So I'm gonna make a note.
Okay.
I just noticed, because Judy did these numbers, I didn't do these numbers.
All right.
I'm throwing Judy in with the bus, sorry.
Get her here.
We're on you, that's no problem.
Didn't hurt her to have some tire tracks on her somewhere.
So she only put 53,000 in as the budget, not 53.7. So there's a little difference.
Okay,
I'm just
that's
okay.
We're not gonna put.
So let's say 53.7 for the grant, 8,000 for admin. Is that reasonable?
What she said.
Yeah.
Without the household, so that brings us to 61,700.
You do divide the 12.9 roughly?
No, that's total cost. 61,700. My numbers are right.
Alright.
So
$20,500.
61,700 divided by 3, 20,056.
Okay,
Did it in my head.
Yes, ma'am.
like I said, and I apologize because Judy did the numbers and I
Okay.
don't understand them.
Judy's
Okay.
on.
We don't get upset, don't worry.
Start over.
All right, so let's
I'm
start
looking
again.
at all the details here. So she has it broken down. The $8,000 is the indirect fee that the COG has overall. And
That's
then there's
management fee.
Yeah, and then there's the $7,500 for Judy and my time involved in overseeing this.
Okay.
And I didn't tell you the $7,500.
That's above the 8?
All right.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was where the
55.
15. That's where I got the
Yes,
15.
I also
Okay.
Okay, and then
So
you had
it's
the
back.
And then
53.9.
53.7, yeah.
Or 7, I mean.
53.7 and 15.
15.
Yeah, so I have the total for the whole thing based on all Judy's numbers minus the 700.
How much? I'm sorry.
I have 68,000.
She didn't have 700 in her original.
68,000.
68,850.
And then we divide that by 3.
And that's where we got the 12,856.
Okay. All right. And we put the 700 on, it comes to 69,200.
Yes.
69,200. And if we divide that by 3,
Wait a minute.
No,
You're at
she already put it
23,000.
on.
Now
we're
it's just gone
23,000.
way the hell
Exactly.
up.
Yeah.
That's
So
12,000 in the right.
69,200
But-
divided by 3.
Right, but remember that we have a grant that pays half of that already.
Yes,
Right.
we're going to
And
get.
then you have to divide it in half, and
Sorry,
that's
you're
your.
right. Sorry.
Okay.
That's why we jumped up. I failed to do that. My apologies.
Oh,
So
okay.
69,200, and the grant's for 30 grand, right? Not half.
The grant is for 30.
So we need to deduct 30, not divide it by 2.
Correct. So we're at 38,850.
39,200 with that extra
So-
$700.
What's that 700? Oh, that's because she.
I thought she put it in
under
Tom, when she
space.
said
Okay, that's fine.
53.7.
That's fine, I'm good.
I said that.
Come on, get the number. How much do we owe on this thing?
So 39,200 divided by 3.
12,950.
Yeah, 13 grand.
let's just cut everybody's salary at the courthouse.
Right.
Well,
Yeah, but then they'll need affordable housing.
that's right.
Then they'll need more.
So we're
Exactly
looking
right.
really at our share based on the
13.
prorated for the three counties is $13,000.
Split evenly.
And the budget for both entities probably has that, but it would deplete you for the year.
Well, it's even more significant impact for affordable housing because that's not an annual revenue stream from them. That has been an accumulative budget line for some years. So we're taking
It's
a
actually
huge.
is an amount contributed by the commat, by people to affordable housing through the Community Spirit campaign.
Good. Okay, thanks.
It's a campaign.
So in Fremont County, they are requesting some money from their municipalities to help them pay their costs. And Florence and Canyon have agreed to pay a little bit. Is that an option for you, Jazz?
Yes.
I think it
It
is,
is
certainly.
except the time frame that we have.
So, okay.
But it could be a recovery amount.
That's what I was gonna
Say
say.
we'll
is
push the
they
bill
you and
and
you
get
all.
Which puts us in a weak position to argue, but nonetheless, we would end up owning the study.
But both towns are very, I mean, they understand what's going on, and I think both towns are very responsible, and even if it's a recovery thing, I wouldn't say it's a weak position, I'd say they would, if they have the money, they would assume some of this responsibility.
All right, based on that, then I'm liking the $8,000 more. Yeah. So I would
Okay,
think
let me do one more figure, and I'll pose this to Mike.
we can get covered from the county.
If we split the 13,000, 6,500 apiece between affordable housing and economic development, would you still be comfortable at 6,500?
If it would get affordable housing going, I would.
Well,
That's
let me rephrase my question.
Yes.
Would you be willing to spend 6,500 for a study? Because that's all we can say.
What's your budget? How much is it over? It's 10 grand, you're gonna have 4 left.
And 3,500 left, yeah.
Yeah, 35.
Because we don't know what the study's gonna do for our county in the long run. So I can't tell you that that money will be spent and the next.
But we might be able to recruit some of that from the cities.
So,
Even if it was
I'll make a motion, I'm just going to rephrase it, I move that we go ahead and fund our share of the budget, excluding the $20,000 for the door-to-door study, the house study, for a study not to exceed $13,000 for our share, to be paid out from the budgets that are already in place for affordable housing and for economic development.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, now it's on the table, we can
Debate.
debate.
Further discussion, Commissioner Bill?
I think with the proviso, we need to go to the towns. That's part of the plan.
Can we do a friendly amendment, sir?
I'm certainly happy to do that. I would like to just say that I feel, being the town attorney and part of this discussion, I will need to recuse myself from that discussion.
Okay.
But I will tell you, just from my conversations with West Cliff itself, they are very in tune to affordable housing. I think you will find a positive reception.
And I think
cannot
Silver Cliff is
speak for
based
them.
on my
And everything
interaction with them.
I agree with you, so I think we'll have a positive outcome from that.
Okay.
May not be a lot, but I think we would have.
So let's not amend the motion. We can make another motion if you so choose, but let's leave your motion as it is.
Leave it, and then we'll just go ourselves once we approved it, and then we could just decide how we want to approach the towns.
Okay. Further discussion?
So the prorated share, we're just gonna pony up.
13 grand.
We're just
Each
gonna
of us,
pay our share and move
that's
forward.
Fremont's gonna do it.
Right.
We get
Correct? I mean,
wrapped
that's
around
your
in
understanding that
Yes.
that's, I mean,
Yes.
give or
The other
take
two
some
counties have said yes.
little
Yeah,
dollars,
we're
but
given-
we're
right.
right there.
And I think, the reason I'm comfortable looking at it, I look at it from both sides. The other side is, there's no way on earth that Custer County could get a study of the magnitude we're gonna have for $13,000
Right,
bucks.
no
So
question.
it's definitely worth it for us. Forget about fair share, forget about ponying up, forget about what's happened in the past. if we can't do it for that kind of money, here's an opportunity to get it done, I think we ought to do it, now that we have the money allocated to do it. If I had to take it from some other area, I would have much greater cramps over this.
And you're comfortable in that, you think we're gonna gain new data, or is it just the data, whatever it is current, and we're gonna be able to leverage that? What, you know?
You know, Bill,
You've been in
your
it.
comment is perfect, and it's right. I think we're gonna learn we need affordable housing more than we can ever do. But I really appreciate Autumn, and having been through this process before, without that document in our hand, we're a fish out of water. We have to have that document to go to agencies and say, here's the proof that we need the money. So, no, we're not gonna learn a whole lot new, I don't believe. But I believe we're gonna have the ticket to get on the train. That's what I think.
I agree. I can tell you this, as a commissioner, there is no way on earth I would vote for this if economic development and affordable housing wasn't willing to put their money where their mouth is.
Right.
So I certainly would not rob our budget to pay for this if these guys were not willing to step up as organizations and do their part, which personally I believe is their part.
Okay,
I
let's
think it's
talk
money
about
well
that
spent,
just
to
real
be
quick.
honest.
I agree. The difference is, I think this is a good way to develop housing to attract more people. It is an economic development issue. I don't know that it's fair on the housing deal to have them pay the same amount. I would twist it a little bit toward the economic development piece, because we've got that as an item that can be funded.
Here's what I would say, and I think what you're saying has great merit. We can always move funds between the agreement. So if the two of them came to us and say, hey, we would like to move X amount of dollars from affordable housing to economic development, or the other way around, I personally don't have a problem because that money's already budgeted.
Then you do need to amend the motion.
Well, we can do that.
In order to, because I believe that we're gonna allocate a total of 13,000 between the funds. That's the way it ought to be worded. It shouldn't be 6,500 each. It's, let us have the discretion to do what's right from a county point of view.
I have no problem with that.
Okay. I have a little.
Unless I don't, you need to restate what the motion really was, because it may have been that way already.
Not to be argumentative, I disagree a little. If this was an economic development study, then I'd say economic development needs to cover the lion's share. This is a affordable housing study that's going to impact economic development.
Yes,
I'm not going to argue that.
I agree with that.
Probably.
Yeah. But your point's well
But see,
taken.
even saying that is, is not fair if you go that route, because it is a,
So my feeling on that would be, let's let them talk between themselves. First of all, I hope they don't hang Mike in effigy for committing those funds, although I appreciate you stepping up to that. And if they come back to us and say, hey, we've decided we would like to allocate it 25/75 or whatever, I'm not going to have any problem whatsoever because the money's already out.
Right, it's a $13,000 pot, in my view.
Yeah. Okay. With your permission, sir, I'll restate. Did we get it? Yeah, I seconded it. I'll restate the motion.
We have a second.
Yeah.
You said that.
It's been moved and seconded that Custer County support the affordable housing study through COG at the price of no more, not to exceed $13,000. Any further discussion? Comments before we?
I think I had in there also to be funded from the budgets between the two entities.
Between those two.
Thank you. To be funded between the budgets of affordable housing and economic development.
Right.
Further discussion before we go to public comment? Public comment?
Public's got an opinion.
I think that the differentiation is that CCEDC gets tax money and they don't.
That's why
they have raised that over years and years and years.
Say it one more time.
That CCEDC gets tax money, and they will get tax money replenished in October. Mike won't.
That was my point, and that's something that they can discuss, and they can reallocate it appropriately.
And I think
that's
we'll
what I
agree
want.
with that. You two organizations get together, decide how you want to allocate the money. Come to us if we need a budget from one budget to the other budget. Inter-budget changes are very simple and no issue.
And just as a point, and you're exactly right, that is tax money. The Board of County Commissioners decides how much tax money goes to economic development.
True.
Line in the budget. It is not CCEDC's money.
That's right.
It is economic development money that belongs to the county. And in that regard, we could actually decide that, but we've allowed
You are good.
Economic Development Court to have that input, so.
I've been yelling and screaming on that.
Further discussion. I would say thank you. I felt at times when I was sitting here and I felt like I was attacking you personally, and I apologize for
That's
that.
I never took it that way at all. I knew we had to have a discussion,
Yeah.
so thank
Well,
you.
you are a champ. Thank you very much.
And the discussion helped me because you guys have been in it. I had
Right,
not.
yeah, yeah.
So,
Hearing no further discussion, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of supporting the the affordable housing study not to exceed $13,000 to be split between two affordable housing and economic development line items in the budget, line items 510 and 520, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for coming up and putting up with this. It's a process we have to do.
I understand. Thanks for letting me come.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Yes.
Very
so when are
good.
we gonna know what they're gonna say?
So, I have a phone call with EPS on Wednesday to go over all the items that we discussed at our meeting on Wednesday.
Right.
And then I need to have a contract ready for them right after that, based on how they respond to those questions and concerns.
Excellent.
Okay.
And
Well,
then
we need
we
to have
have to have, well, then there's all those other little pieces in the middle, so they'll set up a time to come to Custer County, to go to Fremont, to go to Park. And then we should have a product by the end of November.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, we have three other items plus our executive session. I would request about a 5 minute.
You've only got a 2-hour bladder, that's
We're in
why.
recess for 5 minutes. Thank you, ma'am. I'm gonna give you a hug before you leave. That's the door.
I'm not gonna argue, I just.
The meeting will reconvene.
Oh, yeah.
Time is 12:08. Madam Secretary, next item of business under new business is the airport board name change resolution.
I move that we change the name of the Airport Advisory Board to the Airport Board.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded.
I said a quick question now. Are we in debate now?
We will be just a second. I'm trying to find the document.
Oh, wait a minute, did you start the,
It's number 2.
hold on, we gotta make sure
I didn't
that
start
the
anything.
recording.
I didn't touch
I think
anything.
she did, but 1806, correct?
Okay,
Yeah.
yes, okay, cool.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 18-06, a resolution establishing an airport board for Custer County. Was that correct, sir, or were you doing name change?
I'm
on the wrong one.
That board has been established. We're changing the name from Advisory
Okay,
Board
I'm
to
on the wrong
Airport
one.
Board. You're on the weed.
No, I'm on, we gotta do 2 for the airport today.
Oh, do we? Okay, I'm not aware of that.
Oh, no.
Well,
just
1801 was the
We-
IGA,
Yeah,
and they're both gonna be dated the same date, so
okay.
Kit's question wasn't really an issue.
Yeah, it's not we're not establishing a board.
Okay, hold on.
I was just.
So you want 1801 IGA?
No, well, we already did 1801, we're talking about 1806 now, changing the name. Actually, creating a board, there never was an official board created, so it's.
Right.
Okay, so we're doing
So we're
more.
doing both
Yeah,
in
we're-
this one resolution.
Yes, it's,
That's what
Okay,
I was.
so, Jay, would you
I need
withdraw
to-
your motion,
I
sir?
will withdraw.
Thank you.
So
The
that's
second is
why
withdrawn, okay.
where I was is whether it was new business or old, and so that makes it new business. If it's
So,
really something
the resolution we're gonna deal with, gentlemen, will deal with establishing an airport board, and doing so also changes the name. Counselor, would you agree to that, or?
it changes the name from the de facto board that's been in existence without benefit of any resolution since 2012. It's been called an airport advisory board, but that's never been
I
an
don't think you
official
can mention
name.
the name change, it's just establishing the board.
It's establishing the airport board. It says that it was referred to as advisory, and we're removing that word as not being appropriate to what the duties of
Because
this
we're
board.
establishing a board.
Right. And I also took out the part about any expenditure over $300.
Right,
I took that
So you have a
out.
budget.
Yeah, okay. Group's pleasure?
I'll move that we adopt resolution 1806, forming the airport board. The Custer County Airport, which is known as the Silver West Butler Airfield. The de facto name was Airport Advisory Board. The proper name henceforth will be Airport Board.
I'll second the motion. It's been moved and seconded to adopt resolution number 18-06, entitled "A Resolution Establishing an Airport Board for Custer County." Discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed nay. Motion carries. Let the record show resolution 18-06 has been approved. Thank you, Councilor, for doing that. Okay. And the next item of business is a resolution to form a Custer County Weed Advisory Board.
And this is the same thing, and a weed advisory board is required by statute. It was never formally created by anything that Kelly could find in her search of records. So I think we should have it formally done by means of a resolution.
Thank you both for that.
What number is this? Is it
1805.
1805. So we've never had a formal, pre-established
Not that we
board.
can find.
We were just doing it because the state said we should.
Right.
Well, and actually, the state didn't even say that. We decided this on our own, that we never could find
Well, they didn't order us
documentation.
to.
No, but what I meant is how are we actually, how are we?
State law says that we
Statutes
should
call
have a
for
weed
it, yeah.
advisory board, and even
We
though.
did it, and
Yeah.
nobody formally did it.
Yeah, exactly. I would move that we approve resolution 18-05, a resolution establishing a weed advisory board for Custer County.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Been moved and seconded to adopt resolution 18-05, a resolution establishing a weed advisory board for Custer County. Discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. Sorry, public comment? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. 18-04 resolution has been approved. My computer died right there. Sorry. Public comment.
I don't know exactly what the BOCC's role is with respect to mountain, but I am hearing nightmare stories about
That's what I'm sorry.
nightmare stories about
Water.
water bills like going from $100 a month to $1,100 a month.
600% increase.
80% was the
And so I don't
move
know what your part of that is, but we just got to talking about housing costs. And so I just thought.
Our part of it is what we pay here for the courthouse.
So the county doesn't have any control whatsoever. A water district is a special district that is approved through court, and the county doesn't have any. Same with the hospital district or the fire district.
Okay.
The bills that I have seen come across our desk, the county's amounts have doubled. From 120 something to 248, I believe, for this. And
nothing to do with them, unfortunately.
I have heard also that other businesses, it's gone anywhere from double to 600%.
yeah. And unlike county commissioners,
Without a lot of talk.
they don't have to talk. They're providing a service. If they want to charge more money for it, statute they can. And what are people going to do? Quit paying their water bill? No, probably just.
So they sort of have you over at water barrel.
Exactly.
Well, that's the one that Charles Vogel, he's on the board, said that they couldn't attract anybody to the meetings when they were discussing this. I think
Is that what happened?
They didn't get
like
anybody.
one person.
One person, I think, showed up.
Yeah, they published these meetings and the agenda and what they're going to be talking about. Nobody showed up, and now everybody's very upset about it.
And I just read an email from them that said they thought the last of the new bills would go out in May for April's billing, mostly to commercial businesses. That most of all the individual homes have been billed. They've now seen their new bill. There are some commercials that have not seen this latest increase. So the gnashing of teeth may continue when the final round of billing goes. But anything
Brenda,
else?
Have you notified Vernon to come over?
I did,
Okay.
but he didn't respond, so maybe I should call.
Anything else for public comment? Okay, we'll stand in recess until we're prepared to go into executive session. Fair enough, and then we can go through the
Hey, did you
document.
get my text? Yes.
Good, I can make a phone.
Okay. Okay.
We also,
What?
you added a
On his way?
personnel issue onto that too.
Yeah. On his way?
Yes.
Okay, let me pull up the executive session stuff.
Put it in front of you.
This is gonna be our very high-tech,
Very nice.
executive session.
Oh, yeah. And the
Oh, wait a minute.
meeting will.
Hold on.
Click.
Get the makeup man back in here, I'm back on TV.
Are you good? Okay, hold on.
The meeting of the Board of County Commissioners will reconvene. Let the record show it is 12:51 p.m. Counselor, any statements concerning executive session?
The executive session that was just concluded, the security issue was clearly an issue that needed to be discussed in executive session, and the discussion stayed on point. No decisions were made on that issue. The personnel issue, it was my legal opinion after we got started into it, it wasn't properly a personnel issue, and so that discussion was ended at that point. We did stay on topic with regard to the issue that was brought up, but I didn't feel it was a personnel issue I didn't feel it was a personnel issue.
Okay, thank you, sir. Let the record so reflect.
No decisions were made on anything.
Okay,
Or did you finish?
no, I'm good. Yeah, I was just double checking. Is there a second to the motion to adjourn?
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay. Motion carries. Let the record show 12:52 p.m. All right. Lord.
Well, we're done a little earlier than usual.
What time does the,
2 o'clock.
Right, and we need to get together on this sooner or later. So you guys can pick a time.
Okay. Well, I need a little fresh air, so I'd just soon not do it now.
We can do it anytime.
Man, I'm telling you, the meetings are a grind.
So
what else?
So have you known
Who was the lady
affordable housing?
When Jackie was on the water,
Last couple of years.
I have
Custer?
been helping the hospital district lately, trying to get their elections.
actually I knew it before
going
that
and all
because she,
And
with my
reading about the
affiliation
statute,
with Western,
and
I've known
I
her for a while.
have learned some stuff that I
I
didn't.
think the wages they're
while I
asking
was
for is
reading
reasonable
that.
for
And
overhead.
maybe you can look at that, but
You know, the cost of
I
what they do.
thought that when the special district was formed, it went totally to the board. But from what I was reading,
Yeah,
the
it's gonna be mine.
commissioners approve it
Yeah,
first,
thanks
approve
for
their
the-
plan,
What do you think?
and then it goes to
What's
the
that?
board.
Yeah.
And there are
Sorry, I didn't hear that
instances where the
video.
commissioners
The,
can step in
Autumn.
and say,
Oh, I think she represented herself pretty well. She tried to.
You think they earn their keep?
so,
Based
maybe
on
that's
Oh, I
something
think
you can
so
look
on
into.
all the other stuff they do. I didn't
I know that
and
they-
if there is a plan,
They
because
do
it
a
says
whole
the
lot of
plan
stuff.
is
Now,
set
she is
to
obviously a
file
housing
with the
director.
county clerk.
How you like to deal with
Really? Well,
all the
that's,
crap in Canyon City.
And I
because
never
I saw
realized
the
that.
plan for the hospital.
I could do this.
And when they revised it, they were supposed to get permission of the board,
Yeah.
which the board never did, they purposely ignored it. And
All right, I'll see you guys in a little bit.
So when are we getting back?
See,
2?
and I don't think, from what I've read, if the commissioners don't like it or whatever, I think they can do something about that. So I don't
may
know,
still
I
have
don't
the
know if
hospital
I'm,
district stuff. But can you get the plan for the water district, let me take a look at it?
well, let me see if I have it.
Or you
Cause
can
that's
get
what
it.
I'm wondering, is if I even
But it
have
would
it,
be
but
part of
maybe
the
I
court
could,
file.
yeah, it might be part of the court file.
I'm sure. it would
And I
have to
don't know
be.
what's in a